This cleaning lady is a master of laziness. To leave work early, she uses a brush on her desk to paint over stains on the carpet. When cleaning the VIP room, she not only eats leftover food on the table, but also hides in a corner to gamble on her phone. Young-mi doesn't have a regular job but has to raise 2 children, so she can only rely on cleaning various places to earn money. Among them, the most stable job is cleaning for a securities company, and the pay is decent. The girl In Kyung, who works with her there, estimates that with her cleaning salary, after deducting daily expenses, she could still save enough in a year to buy a used coffee truck. Then she could travel freely while making money. Seeing In Kyung's dream of saving money made Young-mi feel bitter. Her monthly income is barely enough to cover expenses. There are daily household costs and 2 daughters to raise. Worse still, Young-mi loves gambling, so she also has a large gambling debt to repay. To earn some extra money, Young-mi tries to flatter Dongju, the team leader of the cleaning staff at the securities company, asking him to arrange extra weekend shifts for her. Unexpectedly, her flattery backfires. The last time Young-mi lazily used a brush to paint over the curtain stains, Dongju hadn't even settled that account with her yet. Not only does Dongju refuse to give her extra work, but he also warns her that if she pulls another stunt like that, she'll be fired. Frustrated, Young-mi swallows her anger. That night, while hiding in a corner to gamble again, she accidentally overhears Tae-kyung from the company making a phone call. He holds his phone while looking around cautiously, speaking in a tense tone. Recently, someone in the company was investigated for a similar matter. I wanted to stop, but in the end, I couldn't. Following the words of the person on the other end, Tae-kyung writes down the name of a company, Walkertech Electronic, and says an industry term Young-mi doesn't understand. He also mentions there will be a merger announcement on Wednesday, with each share worth 50 million. Young-mi didn't dare make a sound, and only breathed a sigh of relief after Tae-kyung left. He seemed to be planning something illegal, but it didn't matter. Whatever happened had nothing to do with an ordinary cleaning lady like Young-mi. The next day, Young-mi received a debt collection call, and her credit card was maxed out. Helpless, she had to meet her detestable ex-husband. Years ago, he had an affair with a young colleague and divorced Young-mi. She got custody of their 2 children. Originally, Young-mi didn't want to deal with Seong-woo anymore, but he was 3 months behind on child support. Struggling financially, she had no choice but to ask him directly, yet Seong-woo acted indifferent, pretending he had no money, unless she brought their daughters for him to raise instead. Young-mi sneered, "I will never give my children to you." Enraged by her words, Seong-woo shouted that she always blamed others and should reflect on her gambling addiction. Their conversation ended badly. The more he saw Young-mi, the more annoyed he felt, so he stood up and left without looking back. That day was utterly exhausting. Before Young-mi even got home, her downstairs neighbor complained that her daughters had been jumping around noisily. She tried to brush it off, but the neighbor's patience had run out, and warned that if the noise continued, they would call the police. When she finally returned home, Young-mi snapped at her daughters, feeling they didn't appreciate how hard she worked. Just then, something on the TV caught her eye. The words, Walkertech Electronic. The news reported that after the merger of 2 companies, Walkertech Electronic's stock price had skyrocketed in a single day. Young-mi's eyes widened as she suddenly remembered. This was the very company Tae-kyung had mentioned that night. The next day, while Young-mi was cleaning the restroom at the securities company, she overheard 2 female employees talking. There was a rumor that an employee in the company had leaked internal information to a mistress. The 2 of them used stock trading to profit from price differences and had already earned 500 million won, but because Mistress was too arrogant and boasted too much, she ended up exposing herself. As Young-mi listened, she thought of the colleague under investigation that Tae-kyung mentioned the previous day. It seemed the people in this story were the same ones. After connecting the dots, Young-mi understood Tae-kyung's situation. He was also an employee taking advantage of insider information to profit from stock trades, but he hadn't been exposed or investigated yet. To understand the nature of this so-called insider trading, Young-mi went to a bookstore after work and read many books and watched educational videos. Only then did she realize that these mid-level and senior executives in securities companies use their positions of power for personal gain. He was indeed an executive with a private office. While changing the trash bag, she tried to find more information on his desk, but faced with a pile of reports and colorful line charts, she couldn't make sense of any of it. After thinking it over, Young-mi admitted her own limitations. If she wanted to learn how to make money as fast as those high-ranking people, she needed someone to help her. Her top choice was, of course, the kind and obedient In Kyung. That day, Young-mi carefully shared her discovery, lamenting how the higher-ups at the securities company could make massive profits every day. No wonder the gap between rich and poor was so huge. Naive In Kyung, upon hearing this, simply said they should report the criminals to the police. Young-mi had to keep persuading her gently, trying to convince In-kyung to join her in using insider information to trade stocks. If they succeeded, they could live comfortably without working so hard. As for the risk, those daring executives who committed crimes remained unharmed, and no one would ever suspect cleaners like them. But In-kyung still refused, saying there was only one reason: it was illegal. She only wanted to live a stable life, watching her savings slowly grow, being an ordinary and kind woman. Seeing that In-kyung firmly held to her opinion, Young-mi could only pretend to understand. To Young-mi, who was struggling, this plan was a glimmer of hope for survival, but for In-kyung, who had savings and no financial pressure, it was a risky choice. That night, while working part-time at a convenience store, Young-mi met a young woman who had just failed at work. Feeling sympathy, she encouraged the girl to regain her confidence. The warm atmosphere was suddenly interrupted by the loud voice of her creditor. With a nasty attitude, he mocked Young-mi for comforting others when she couldn't even take care of herself. Trembling, Young-mi begged him for a few more days. "I've found a way to make money," she said. The creditor gave her 10 days to prepare the repayment. However, her stock trading plan still had no progress. In just 10 short days, there was no way Young-mi could earn such a large sum. Her only option now was to borrow money from her family. Young-mi went to her brother's house. With just one look, he knew she came to borrow money and kept a cold expression the entire time. Young-mi felt resentful. It was her brother who had insisted on studying abroad in Japan. To support him, the family had to give up her chance to attend college. That decision directly affected her entire life. She believed that if she hadn't sacrificed for her brother back then, she could have become an office worker and wouldn't be living in poverty now. Her brother's current comfortable life was built upon her lost happiness, but he remained firm and refused to lend her even a single one, accusing her of being poor only because of her gambling habit. Their mother, who was living with him, didn't say a word in Young-mi's defense, and naturally sided with her son. Young-mi felt a cold emptiness in her heart. Even her closest family had abandoned her. There was no point in clinging any further. After leaving her brother's villa, Young-mi vandalized his luxury car, seeing it as repayment for her lost college tuition. That day, after finishing work, she gloomily called In-kyung to meet her by the bridge, saying that she had twice thought about committing suicide there but gave up for the sake of her children. Young-mi felt pitiful for herself. Some people live glamorous lives, making money as easily as breathing, breaking the law without guilt, and enjoying the advantages that come from their crimes. There were many such people, and they all seemed to live well. However, inconspicuous cleaners like Young-mi could only work hard and live humble, miserable lives. When Young-mi spoke those words, she was actually trying to persuade In-kyung. She needed money not only to survive, but also to restore her self-worth. She was desperate to earn money to prove herself. She didn't want to keep living in humiliation. She wanted to see a ray of hope. Kind-hearted In-kyung felt conflicted by Young-mi's words, and, unable to bear seeing her suffer, finally agreed to cooperate in insider stock trading. That day, the two bought a bugging device but didn't know how to use it. Just then, Young-mi's distant cousin, Do-young, came down from the attic. A few days earlier, to earn extra income, Young-mi had rented out the small attic to him. With one glance, Do-young recognized the small box in their hands as a listening device. Young-mi didn't expect the quiet and introverted Do-young to be a technical expert. After a few quick adjustments, he helped them set it up easily. To dispel his curiosity, Young-mi claimed that the device was to catch In-kyung's boyfriend cheating. That night, while Tae-kyung was out of his office, Young-mi sneaked in. After scanning the room, she prepared to install the bug inside the ceiling vent. Racing against time, she stacked 2 books to stand on his desk and used a coin to tighten the screws. Just as she was placing the bug, the office door suddenly opened. The person who entered was Suja from the cleaning team. Suja was a stingy woman who often reported the lazy behavior of other cleaners to Dongju to earn his favor and get extra shifts, so the others all disliked her. She often hid in secluded corners to slack off and had once overheard Tae-kyung arranging a secret meeting for Saturday. Today, she saw Young-mi and In-kyung whispering suspiciously together. Suja's intuition told her something was off. That night, she secretly kept an eye on them, and, sure enough, Young-mi and In-kyung pretended to clean the office all night. Suja quickly tattled to Dongju, saying that 2 people from the business department were chatting idly. Enraged, Dongju immediately called for In-kyung. At that moment, Suja entered the business department and pushed open Tae-kyung's office door. Startled, Young-mi turned around in panic, dropping the screw she was installing. Instead of making a scene, Suja picked up the screw, tossed it back to Young-mi, and told her to restore the air vent within 5 minutes. After saying that, Suja closed the door again and intercepted Tae-kyung, who was returning from the restroom. To buy Young-mi some time, she lied that she could read fortunes, and even accurately mentioned that Tae-kyung had a date planned for Saturday. Hearing this, Tae-kyung was shocked. After all, he really did have such a plan. Mysteriously, Suja warned him not to go, then rolled her eyes dramatically, pretending to perform a ritual. Only when Young-mi quietly slipped out of the office nearby did Suja signal that it was done and say to Tae-kyung, "You'd better not go. There's going to be a terrible traffic jam that day." Tae-kyung was speechless and angrily told her to leave. After the danger passed, Suja confronted Young-mi and In-kyung, demanding to know what they were doing. Since Young-mi had already decided on her money-making plan, she agreed to pay Suja to keep quiet. Suja's eyes gleamed cunningly as she bargained with Young-mi, and they finally settled on 350,000 won. After the bug was installed, information soon came through. Tae-kyung revealed that another company merger was about to take place, and this time, the situation seemed very stable. He even planned to open several new accounts. Delighted, Young-mi prepared to use the 1 million won deposit she had received from renting out the attic to invest in it. But when she returned home, she found her creditor already waiting inside. Do-young, unaware that the man was a debt collector, warmly welcomed him, and even mentioned that Young-mi had just received a 1 million won deposit from him. Realizing she had money on hand, the creditor refused to give her any more time and shamelessly refused to leave the house. Young-mi had no choice but to transfer the money to him. After sending him away, she was left with nothing and had to ask In-kyung to front the investment money, promising that no matter whether they gained or lost, she would repay her afterward. In-kyung had no other choice and agreed with Young-mi to start small by buying 50 shares as a test. But Young-mi, full of ambition, secretly pressed the button to purchase 100 shares, while In-kyung wasn't paying attention. After completing the transaction, the two hugged each other tightly, eagerly waiting for the stock price to soar in the future. The next day, Young-mi received a call from her daughter's teacher, saying that Shia had hit another student. According to what the teacher had found out, it seemed that Young-mi had taught her child to fight back twice as hard when being bullied. Young-mi immediately shouted that it was a misunderstanding and explained that she hadn't meant it that way. On the way home, Young-mi explained that sentence to Shia again. Her original intention was only to prevent Shia from being bullied, not to tell the girl to fight back. Shia obediently admitted her mistake. Young-mi rewarded her by taking her to the supermarket to buy snacks, while she called to apologize to the parent of the classmate who was beaten. When Young-mi hung up and went to the supermarket, she witnessed an embarrassing scene. Shia had stolen a chocolate bar and was caught by the cashier. Young-mi stepped forward, paid for the snacks and the chocolate, then led Shia away. On the way, Young-mi felt deeply depressed. She knew that Shia's stealing behavior was entirely learned from her. Because of past poverty, Young-mi had often taken food without paying. She never thought it was wrong until today, when she saw the cashier humiliating Shia, realizing that a mother is the one who shapes her child's sense of right and wrong. After taking Shia home, Young-mi returned to the supermarket, bought a pile of snacks, and threw them all on the ground to prove that she could afford them, releasing her pent-up frustration. Wiping her tears, Young-mi swore that for Shia's sake, she had to earn more money. The next day, while In-kyung was cleaning, she was picked on by Jeon-di, and even ordered to run an errand to buy her a pair of stockings. The timid In-kyung could only comply, but Young-mi stepped up to defend her, refusing to tolerate Jeon-di's bullying. Jeon-di did not pursue the matter further and turned away. When she reached a secluded area, she glanced at Tae-kyung's office, deep in thought. That day after work, Young-mi and In-kyung saw the news on the TV in the building, reporting that the stocks they bought had risen sharply. They couldn't contain their excitement and cheered joyfully on the street. At home, Suja also heard the news, but she felt nothing. After all, what did rising stock prices have to do with a cleaning lady like her? Suja's life was far from happy. Her husband treated her like a servant, completely indifferent to her wishes and feelings. Suja had an old suitcase covered in dust for over a decade. She had always dreamed of traveling, but her husband's empty promises kept her waiting endlessly. In the end, he no longer bothered to pretend, and bluntly said that her obsession was disgusting. If not for wanting to avoid their son growing up in a divorced family, he would have kicked her out long ago. Under her husband's oppression and insults, Suja could only wipe her tears and hide in her room, drinking alone to ease the pain. Her family made her miserable, and the only thing that gave her a sense of security was her savings book. Suja worked tirelessly, calculating and scheming, just to save up 100 million won as soon as possible. When that day came, she would reward herself with a wonderful trip, but that goal was still far away. From time to time, she would drag her suitcase to the airport, sit in the waiting hall all night, and pretend she was about to travel. But when morning came, the dream vanished, and she could only shake her head and return to another day of hard labor. Meanwhile, Young-mi and In-kyung did some calculations and realized they had already earned 100 million won. They expected next week's gains to be even greater. Although In-kyung was excited, she still felt uneasy, afraid something might go wrong. Lately, her lazy and freeloading ex-boyfriend had been pestering her again, loitering at her house. Seeing In Kyung avoid him to take phone calls, he cheerfully assumed she must be hiding some good news from him. The next day, with only 20 minutes left before the market closed, they sold their stocks and made a huge profit. To celebrate that night, Young-mi left Xia in Yuna's care and went drinking with In Kyung. In Kyung intended to stop after this deal, but Young-mi's ambition was far greater. She had already thrown away all her daughter's old clothes, placing all her hopes on getting rich through stock trading. Young-mi tried to persuade In Kyung not to be afraid. Even if things were exposed, the official employees at the securities company would take the blame. They were just cleaners, not insiders, as people said. But In Kyung refused. That was just her nature. She had a slow but steady life goal, and didn't want to lose herself by taking a sudden shortcut. Tasting the sweetness of crime would only lead to self-destruction, sooner or later. Seeing that In Kyung no longer wanted to cooperate, Young-mi decided to do it alone. That night, she was in a very good mood, deliberately bought fried chicken for her children, and even danced with her daughter at home. As expected, the downstairs neighbor came knocking again. But now that she had money, Young-mi felt confident. She no longer bowed her head to apologize. Instead, she brought up the old issues and mocked him for being a drunk who survived on basic government subsidies. The junk filling up the hallway came from his house, and he often hit Xia on the head. Young-mi said she had overlooked all that, so he shouldn't come to provoke her anymore. Exposed and humiliated, the neighbor had no choice but to slink back home. Back inside, Du Young and Xia praised Young-mi's counterattack, and even Yuna smiled. That night, when Young-mi returned to work, she took the opportunity to sneak into Tae-kyung's office and discovered a phone hidden under his desk, which he used to leak confidential information. Young-mi immediately told In Kyung about it. The two once again grew excited and eavesdropped on what was happening in the office. Unexpectedly, the bug malfunctioned this time, emitting a noise that drew Tae-kyung's attention. After carefully inspecting the room, he realized something was hidden inside the air vent. Tae-kyung immediately contacted the technical department and requested an inspection. Tae-kyung's discovery terrified Young-mi and In Kyung. Once the bug was found, Tae-kyung would definitely investigate, and with surveillance cameras installed all over the company, it was only a matter of time before they were exposed. Fortunately, the technical department was busy fixing another plumbing issue, so they didn't come to check the vent right away. Seizing the opportunity, Young-mi decided she couldn't just sit and wait for disaster. That night, she and In Kyung waited until the last employee in the office had left, then sneaked into Tae-kyung's office to retrieve the bug. Just as she was unscrewing the vent, Tae-kyung suddenly returned. Young-mi had no choice but to hide behind a cabinet in the corner. Unfortunately, at that exact moment, her phone started ringing. Tae-kyung immediately followed the sound and discovered the cleaning lady crouched in the corner. At the critical moment, Young-mi pretended she was scraping chewing gum off the floor and claimed she hadn't noticed him return because she was wearing earphones. Fortunately, Tae-kyung didn't suspect anything and simply told her to leave. After leaving the office, Young-mi was so nervous that she couldn't stop vomiting. Later that night, Young-mi and In Kyung learned through the bug that the technicians had opened the air vent and found the device. In Kyung sighed, thinking that once the company discovered someone had planted a bug, they would definitely call the police and might trace it back to them. But Young-mi believed Tae-kyung was involved in too many dirty dealings, and if he called the police, he would only expose himself. As expected, the next day, the company's inspection team officially launched an internal investigation. Jean-di also believed they couldn't call the police, since news of secret wiretapping in a securities firm would ruin the company's reputation. Seeing Jean-di and Tae-kyung arguing heatedly in the office, Young-mi pretended to be cleaning near the door, hoping to overhear something. Although Jeon-di didn't report the case, she still confiscated Tae-kyung's computer hard drive and phone to prevent further leaks. Tae-kyung had no choice but to hand them over reluctantly. Young-mi felt temporarily relieved, believing the company would never suspect the cleaners. But the next day, her own words came back to slap her in the face. Early that morning, Dongju summoned her to the office. Jeon-di took out the bug and asked if Young-mi had seen it while cleaning. Wearing a mask to hide her panic, Young-mi firmly denied ever seeing the device. Jeon-di had no choice but to let her go. Panicked, In-kyung ran to ask if they had been found out. Knowing how timid she was, Young-mi lied that Jeon-di only called her in to clean the office. In-kyung finally relaxed. Ever since the bug had been discovered, she hadn't been able to sleep in peace for days, even dreaming of herself wearing a prison uniform. Terrified and sleepless, In-kyung begged Young-mi to quit with her, but Young-mi knew that at her age, the only job left for her would be even harder cleaning work at a hotel. After work, Young-mi went to another part-time job. While working, her mind was filled with thoughts about the bug, and she even made several mistakes while doing the laundry. Fear finally began to creep in. She worried that one day everything would be exposed. In a panic, she called her wealthy friend to ask for help finding a new job. The next day, Young-mi dressed neatly in business attire and went to her new workplace for an interview. However, when the interviewer heard that she had been a housewife for 20 years, their expression immediately darkened. Having been away from the corporate world for so long, Young-mi no longer had any skills worth hiring. After being rejected, she could only leave in disappointment. Just then, Do-young called. Song-woo had stormed into the house, packing up to take his daughter away. Hearing that Seong-woo had come to claim custody, Young-mi rushed to his house, but only his current wife was there. Shia had already been taken to her grandmother's home. Seong-woo had long been resentful toward Young-mi, and upon learning that Do-young was living in the attic, he became even more furious. How could she let a man live in the same house as her two teenage daughters? Young-mi, in his eyes, had no right to be a mother. Fortunately, the grandmother was an understanding woman. With her gentle persuasion, Seong-woo calmed down and admitted that Young-mi wasn't a bad person, just pitiful. But being with her always filled him with anxiety and fear, as if walking on thin ice every day. That was why he had left her. That evening, when Young-mi came home, she exploded at Yoon-ah. Earlier, she had asked Yoon-ah to look after her sister, but the girl had a school band performance, so Young-mi asked Do-young to help instead. Unexpectedly, Yoon-ah called Seong-woo and asked him to take care of Shia. When Seong-woo found out that Do-young was also in the house, he grew furious and took Shia away. Confronted by Young-mi's anger, Yoon-ah didn't think she had done anything wrong. He was her father, so what was wrong with asking him to take care of his own daughter? After all, Young-mi had no money to raise her children and no time to care for them. Yoon-ah's words cut deep into her heart. For years, she had worked tirelessly from dawn till night, her hands never dry from labor, yet she had never received understanding from her daughter. If Yoon-ah despised her mother that much, then she didn't need to stay in that house anymore. Yoon-ah also lost her temper. She accused Young-mi of feeding them food that was about to expire, never having money for extra classes, and living like a beggar. After saying that, Young-mi heard the door slam. Yoon-ah had actually left. Not long after, Seong-woo sent a message saying that Yoon-ah was with him, and that they should talk tomorrow. Young-mi couldn't hold back her tears. She was a poor, failed woman, and now, even her children had abandoned her. The next day, Young-mi went to work as usual, but In-kyung never showed up at the bus stop. She had no choice but to take the subway alone. Looking at her reflection in the train window, she imagined herself from 20 years ago, confident and smiling. But time could not be turned back, and fate held too many possibilities. Unfortunately, Young-mi's luck had led her down the worst path. Even so, she still had something she wanted to protect. Waiting for the moment to change her fate, she arrived at the securities company and changed into her uniform. At that moment, In-kyung rushed in, her messy hair showing she had overslept. While In-kyung was changing clothes, Young-mi quietly approached and suggested making one last stock trade. But now they no longer had the listening device. They had no idea which company's stocks to buy. Young-mi said that as long as they could find the evaluation report in Jandi's office, it would be enough, and she would take care of the dangerous part. If they got caught, she alone would bear the consequences. And In-kyung only needed to handle the investment. This time, though, Young-mi wanted to increase their investment. Cautious as always, In-kyung refused. Seeing her reluctance, Young-mi grew angry. Her daughter had been taken away. She was burning with anxiety, yet In-kyung couldn't show even a bit of understanding. How selfish. Bewildered by Young-mi's outburst, In-kyung blurted out that Young-mi only wanted to make money to pay off her gambling debt. Hearing those words, Young-mi's heart turned cold. So, In-kyung had always thought her motivation was selfish. Not wanting to argue anymore, Young-mi ended the conversation. And from then on, the two stopped sticking together all day like before. One night, In-kyung received a phone call saying that her mother had fallen ill and been taken to the hospital. She burst into tears and rushed to her mother's side. That same day, after work, Soo-ja went to the vegetable market, bargaining in every possible way, and bought a pile of ingredients to prepare for the ancestral memorial. She handled the entire feast all by herself. While reaching up to take the offering items from the top of the cabinet, she accidentally fell. Her husband only came after hearing the noise, glanced briefly at the scene, but instead of checking on her, he looked straight at the items in the box, as if Soo-ja were invisible. That evening, her husband's younger brother's family came over for dinner. They lived comfortably and were well off. During the meal, the sister-in-law brought up the topic of their son's studies, and even encouraged him to study abroad. She did it deliberately, knowing that Soo-ja's family couldn't afford such expenses. Since the younger brother's family had no children, they had their eyes on Soo-ja's son, believing that if they invested in his education, they could later rely on him to take care of them. There was no way Suja would let that happen, so she immediately objected, saying that attending Seoul University was already enough. Unexpectedly, her husband didn't support her at all, and even shouted for her to shut up. Suja quietly started eating, but soon realized that all the good dishes had been taken, leaving her only a bowl of watery soup. The next day, Young-mi began acting on her plan alone. She went to Jandi's office, hoping to copy the evaluation report onto a USB drive, but during work hours, the office was crowded, and she couldn't find a chance to do it. Then, she noticed the fire alarm, and came up with an idea. Young-mi approached Suja, and asked her to trigger the fire alarm, and lend her the investigation team's access card for a while. In return, Young-mi promised to pay her 3 times more than before. Suja immediately agreed. When the alarm went off, the office fell into chaos as everyone evacuated. Seizing the moment, Young-mi sneaked in. Just as she was about to copy the file, she realized her USB didn't have enough storage. The only way to free up space was to delete the photos of her daughter. After much hesitation, she couldn't bring herself to do it. Instead, she decided to print the documents and hide them in a trash bag to take out later. However, she accidentally left the USB on Jandi's desk. That evening, Young-mi went to the hospital to visit In-kyung. It turned out that earlier that day, Young-mi was the one who had noticed In-kyung's mother was unwell and had rushed her to the hospital in time. Realizing this, In-kyung apologized to her, and the two finally made up. Young-mi told In-kyung that she had successfully obtained the evaluation report. The two of them then worked together again, analyzing the information in the document and finally identifying the company whose stock they should buy. In-kyung transferred all the money to Young-mi and reminded her not to fail. Remembering In-kyung's words, Young-mi double-checked the report once more and noticed that 2 companies met the criteria. Unsure which to choose, she decided to flip a coin to decide. The result pointed to the same company they had initially planned to invest in. However, at that very moment, Tae-kyung was on the phone, and the company that was truly about to see a sharp rise in stock price was the other one. Young-mi hesitated, deciding by coin toss suddenly felt too careless. Then she thought of Do-young in the attic and brought the report to him for advice. Coincidentally, he was working with a 3D printer, which happened to be the main industry of both companies. Young-mi immediately showed him the report and asked which of the 2 3D printing companies was the better investment. Flipping through a few pages, Do-young exclaimed that the second company could even print human organs. He mentioned he had a friend working for a medical equipment firm who often talked about this particular 3D printing company. If they ever managed to merge, the market potential would be enormous. Those words from Do-young enlightened Young-mi. She immediately knew which company's stock to buy, quickly gathered the report, and hurried back to her computer. That night, In-kyung tried to fight off her drowsiness while watching the financial news. When she heard that the company merging with the medical firm was actually the other one, she panicked and called Young-mi. But Young-mi confidently said she had already discovered that clue beforehand and had bet on the right company. The next day, the two met at the subway station and hugged each other excitedly, thrilled at the thought of getting rich again. When they arrived at the company, In-kyung went to clean Tae-kyung's office and accidentally hit the secret phone under his desk with her vacuum cleaner. She immediately realized this was the same phone Young-mi had mentioned, the one Tae-kyung used to leak confidential information. Just as she was about to put it back, members of the inspection team suddenly arrived, announcing that the office had been sealed off. In a panic, In-kyung quickly slipped the phone into her bag. She was about to tell Young-mi about it when the security department summoned everyone for an emergency meeting. Yandi did not suspect the cleaners. Instead, she asked everyone to assist in the investigation. Anyone who discovered suspicious items or people and reported them would receive a generous reward. Eavesdropping was a serious crime, she emphasized, urging everyone to unite and find the culprit. During the meeting, In-kyung clutched the phone tightly inside her bag, so terrified she nearly fainted. After the meeting ended, Suja deliberately approached Young-mi to test her reaction. After all, she had seen Young-mi secretly plotting several times before, and this wiretapping incident might very well have something to do with her. Young-mi only whispered to Suja that they would talk privately later. Afterwards, In-kyung confessed to Young-mi that she had picked up the phone and handed it over to Young-mi. Hiding in the restroom, Young-mi turned on the phone, but the moment she did, it started ringing. This annoyed Jandi, who was touching up her makeup in front of the mirror, and she reminded Young-mi to keep her phone on silent during work hours. As she responded, Young-mi quickly removed the phone's battery. After work, Young-mi, In-kyung, and Suja gathered together. Sharp as ever, Suja pointed out that it was Yongmi who had planted the listening device. She had personally seen Yongmi standing on Taekyung's desk, opening the air vent in the ceiling. If Yongmi refused to admit it, she would go to the police. Yongmi was about to deny it, but timid In-kyung broke down first, confessing that they had installed the bug because Taekyung was suspected of insider trading, and they had hoped to profit from the leaked information. This revelation left Suja completely stunned. Her eyes no longer showed suspicion or the intent to expose them. Instead, she decided to join forces with Yongmi, becoming their new ally. The woman flipped through the information on the phone and found a recent message saying that there had been a recent sell-off, the largest transaction ever at the trading center. The sender's name was Young Shin. The cunning Suja wouldn't miss such an opportunity and eagerly suggested taking advantage of this sell-off to make a fortune. The words largest scale triggered her nerves, as if she could already smell money just by looking at them. But with only one message and no other clues, Youngmi had no idea what to do. Suja naturally replied, "Then just go directly and ask this person named Young Shin." It was easy for Suja to say, but all the danger and pressure fell on Youngmi. Of course, she didn't want to take the risk, but the crazy Suja had her ways. She directly called Young Shin, using the landline, shoved the receiver into Youngmi's hand, and mouthed a threat that if she didn't act, she would call the police. Youngmi had no choice but to pretend to stay calm, and said that Taekyung was being monitored by the inspection team and was currently isolated, so she was taking over his duties. Young Shin on the other end was half believing, half doubtful, and arranged to meet her in person at a cafe the next day. Youngmi agreed. After hanging up, only Suja smiled happily, while Youngmi and In-kyung both looked tense. That evening on her way home, Youngmi talked on the phone with Seongwoo and Yuna, expressing how much she missed them. Yuna was a little touched. Deep down, she still loved her mother. The next day, Yuna decided she would move back to live with Youngmi again. To prepare for the meeting with Young Shin, Suja reluctantly lent Youngmi one of her designer outfits. It was a beautiful outfit she had, originally prepared for a vacation, but now she could only give it to Youngmi to look the part. After putting on makeup, Youngmi no longer looked like a cleaning lady at all. Her demeanor and gestures were completely like those of a corporate professional. When meeting Young Shin, she used Yuna's name as a fake identity, and described in detail the insider trading Taekyung had conducted months before, finally making Young Shin seem to lower his guard. She claimed to be the one secretly assisting Taekyung with the transactions, and since Taekyung was now under suspicion, she naturally took over. After introducing herself, Youngmi was just about to ask about the upcoming sell-off when Young Shin told her not to rush and asked her to take out Taekyung's secret phone. Thinking fast, Youngmi replied that to ensure safety, she had already thrown the phone away and was preparing a new one. Young Shin didn't doubt her and instead felt she was cautious and reliable, telling her to contact him once she had everything ready. After leaving the cafe, Youngmi was very pleased with her performance. Just then, Xia called, and Youngmi immediately went to school to pick her up. Unexpectedly, Seongwoo's wife was also waiting at the school gate. Youngmi showed her no kindness. Even though the woman had deliberately bought drawing tools for Xia, Youngmi didn't care. She could easily afford such things herself. Youngmi took Xia to a restaurant and asked about her days living at Seongwoo's house. Although the new wife and father both treated her well, Xia still wanted to stay with her mother. That night, Youngmi brought Xia home. While putting her daughter to sleep, she called In-kyung and said that dealing with Young Shin was too dangerous and they shouldn't continue. Both wanted to back out. The only thing left was to convince Suja. The next day, Youngmi went to see Suja and said the sell-off deal had failed and they should stop thinking about it. But Suja suspected that Youngmi and In-kyung were trying to abandon her and secretly make money behind her back. That day, after getting off work and heading home, Youngmi was once again cornered by a debt collector. She had no choice but to go with him to an ATM and watch helplessly as he withdrew the 2 million won she had earned from her previous investment. Similarly, In-kyung's lazy, freeloading boyfriend had his eyes on her money too, forcing her to carry her savings book to work. As soon as the two women arrived at the company, Dongju brought a female employee over to accuse In-kyung of theft. The woman claimed she had lost an expensive watch, and the person who had cleaned her workspace earlier was none other than In-kyung. Dongju immediately searched In-kyung's locker and even checked the office surveillance footage. In the few minutes before and after the watch went missing, In-kyung was indeed the only one who appeared near the woman's desk. Faced with the employee's anger, In-kyung felt deeply wronged. At that moment, Youngmi went to the garbage collection area and began opening trash bags one by one. She didn't believe In-kyung would steal steal anything. The only possibility was that the watch had been accidentally thrown away. This was not just about proving In Kyung's innocence, but also about protecting the dignity of all the cleaning staff. Under Youngmi's lead, everyone joined in searching through the trash, and eventually, they found the watch in one of the bags. After clearing her name, In Kyung burst into tears. The female employee tried to leave, but Youngmi called her back and told her to apologize to In Kyung. However, how could someone so arrogant ever apologize to a janitor? The female employee completely ignored Youngmi's words. At that moment, Suja suddenly lost her temper, grabbed the employee by the collar, and yanked her back. Terrified, the woman hurriedly apologized to In Kyung. Suja's intervention deeply moved In Kyung. After work, the three women gathered once again. Suja began stirring them up, saying that discrimination based on money existed everywhere. If they hadn't found the watch today, In Kyung would have been branded a thief just because she was a janitor. In this world, having no money meant having no self-respect in others' eyes. This time, the timid In Kyung was filled with anger and slammed the table, agreeing that Youngmi should continue playing her new identity and keep dealing with Young Shin. Caught off guard, Youngmi hesitated and asked for a few days to think it over. That evening, while taking care of Xia, Youngmi learned that Yuna had already left Songwoo's house but hadn't returned home. She immediately called Songwoo and found out that one day he and his wife had talked about Youngmi's gambling habit, and Yuna had overheard it. Disappointed, she didn't want to go back to her mother. Youngmi rushed out to search for her, and as the two chased after each other, they were nearly hit by a car. In that critical moment, Youngmi shielded Yuna with her own body, and finally, the girl forgave her. The mother and daughters were reunited once again. Wanting her child to live happily, Youngmi decided to keep fighting. That day, she received a call from Young Shin, inviting her to a gathering of the organization the following week. To avoid being exposed among professionals, Youngmi began cramming financial knowledge. On the day of the gathering, she rented a luxurious outfit and once again transformed herself into a corporate elite, finally meeting the legendary Wu Chang. However, not long after, another person entered the private room. It was none other than Jandi from the inspection team. Youngmi's heart almost leapt out of her chest. Jandi clearly knew Youngmi's true identity. The USB drive that Youngmi had dropped at work earlier had fallen into her hands, but it only contained many photos of Youngmi's child. It seemed Yandi had not yet discovered who she really was. Yandi sat down confidently and naturally, appearing as if she had long been a member of the organization. After introducing herself to Youngmi, she suddenly felt that Youngmi looked somewhat familiar. Standing beside them, Youngshin explained that Youngmi also worked at a securities company, so perhaps the two had met before. That remark caught Jandi's attention, as she knew every person in the company like the back of her hand. If someone as capable as Youngmi truly existed there, she would have known. The comment left Youngmi momentarily speechless, but before she could respond, Wu Chang swiftly changed the topic to men, unexpectedly defusing the tension. Before attending the party, Youngmi, Suja, and In Kyung had already discussed how to behave during the gathering. Since Youngmi wasn't a real corporate elite, dressing elegantly alone couldn't completely erase the difference. Suja and In Kyung both agreed that the more one talked, the easier it was to slip up, and told Youngmi to speak less and act according to others' reactions. However, after thinking it over, Youngmi realized that such restraint might seem suspicious. She decided that for topics unrelated to insider trading, she would respond according to her own thoughts. Only a mixture of truth and lies could make her story truly convincing. So when Jandi asked Youngmi what kind of red wine she liked, Youngmi honestly said she didn't know much about wine and only enjoyed drinking homemade rice wine at home. Her straightforwardness, instead of raising suspicion, actually made her seem more genuine. At that moment, Wu Chang brought up a land acquisition plan. Youngmi had no idea what he was talking about but managed to follow the flow of the conversation, adapting to what the others said. For the earlier questions, she had skillfully redirected them to other people. Finally, Wu Chang asked how much money Youngmi could invest. Unsure what to say, she boldly pretended to be confident, promising that she would definitely meet whatever amount Wu Chang wanted. That statement delighted Wu Chang, who praised Youngmi for being more decisive than most men, not realizing that she had never actually volunteered any real information. During the dinner, while Youngmi went to the restroom, John D asked Young Shin how trustworthy this woman was. Young Shin said he didn't doubt her for now. Her manner was proper, and she seemed to know plenty about men, so it was worth keeping her around to observe further. After the dinner ended, Young Shin offered to drive Youngmi home, but she declined. While she was walking along the street, John D suddenly called her over to share a taxi. Inside the car, Jan-di began probing again, asking when Young-mi had started working at the financial company, as she couldn't shake the feeling that she'd seen her somewhere before. Young-mi had no choice but to claim she started earlier and happened to guess a time before Jan-di had joined the company. Fortunately, her guess turned out to be right. To stop Jan-di from asking more questions, Young-mi deliberately changed the subject, successfully steering the conversation toward marriage and children. Not long after, Young-mi arrived home. The address she had given was her brother's villa. Fortunately, she knew the door code and could get in without trouble. Jan-di watched as she entered safely before telling the taxi driver to leave. The sound of Young-mi entering the house drew her sister-in-law's attention, forcing her to sneak around the living room. When her sister-in-law went back upstairs and Jan-di had driven away, Young-mi quietly slipped out of the villa, carrying her high heels as she returned to her rundown home. The next day, Jan-di searched the fake name Young-mi had used on her computer and unexpectedly found information about Yoon-ah. Meanwhile, Young-mi was talking with In-kyung about what happened the previous day. She said everything had gone well, and her cover wasn't blown. In-kyung then shared a rumor she'd heard that Jan-di was actually Tae-kyung's mistress. While the two were chatting, Suja suddenly appeared and warned them to keep their voices down, reminding them to be careful not to get exposed. During a cleaning break, Young-mi began reporting the information she had overheard the day before. Wu Chang hoped that in the upcoming land deal, a company called Yan Construction would win the bid, because once they did, their market value would triple. The company to be sold would be chosen by internal votes within the securities firm. At yesterday's gathering, in order to impress others, Young-mi had boldly claimed she had an inside source who could know the results in advance, and that obtaining the information would come with an additional reward of 30 million won. Aside from that reward, combined with the profits they could later earn from stock investments, each of the three women could make at least 30 million won. The temptation of such easy money right before their eyes drove both Suja and In-kyung nearly insane with excitement. Still, before they could start their path to wealth, they had to figure out how to obtain the inside information first. Young-mi thought the most direct way was to continue eavesdropping, but In-kyung was still scared. After all, the company had just experienced a wiretapping scandal, so security would definitely be tighter. The issue remained unresolved for the moment. Suja suggested they gather at Young-mi's house after work. After finishing her shift, Young-mi still had to clean another client's house. She quietly returned the luxury outfit she had worn the previous day. It turned out she had stolen it from the homeowner's closet. The unique brooch on the outfit was even complimented by Jan-di. While cleaning, Young-mi called the securities company, pretending to be a participant, and finally managed to obtain the date and location of the voting meeting. As work was ending, the three women met up again. In-kyung had already bought new eavesdropping equipment, and the next step was figuring out how to enter the meeting place beforehand to install it. Suja and Young-mi racked their brains, searching for connections who could help, but none of their efforts paid off. For the time being, they set the matter aside. In-kyung cheerfully drank beer, amazed that she might actually get rich one day. Meanwhile, the surveillance department discovered that on the day of the fire alarm, one employee's computer had printed out all of the company's internal analysis reports. It was clear that the alarm had been nothing more than a cover-up. Someone was stealing the company's confidential information. To investigate the matter, an employee from the surveillance department secretly approached Dongju to review the security footage from the day of the fire alarm and asked him to find out what the two cleaning staff on that floor had been doing at the time. Fortunately, Young-mi had prepared in advance and coordinated her story with Suja. They would say they had only borrowed sanitary pads. When Dongju reported back, he happened to notice that the investigator was holding photos printed from the USB drive. In the photos were Yoon-ah and Shi-ah, Young-mi's two daughters. The images looked familiar to him. After thinking carefully, he remembered seeing similar photos posted outside Young-mi's locker. The girls were indeed her children. Dongju went to confront Young-mi, laid the photos on the table, and demanded she explain why her USB drive had appeared at the computer that printed the company's confidential documents. Young-mi immediately put on a hurt expression and said she only wanted to print her daughter's homework. But Dongju wasn't convinced by such a simple excuse, insisting that she was suspicious and likely leaking company secrets. Young-mi responded with a clueless smile. "I'm just a cleaning lady. I'd have to understand financial operations before I could leak anything." After saying that, she turned to leave, reminding Dongju to return her USB after reporting the matter to his superiors. Her calm and flawless demeanor completely dispelled Dongju's doubts. To him, she looked every bit like a foolish janitor. Could the real problem lie with Suja instead? Dongju then began pestering Suja, but she knew nothing about the USB, so of course, she couldn't reveal anything. Today, the contact Youngmi had reached out to earlier finally responded. That person was now working as a janitor at the company where the meeting would be held. Pretending to visit her friend Gumsi, Youngmi went to the company and intentionally bumped into someone in the cafeteria, causing coffee to spill all over her clothes. Gumsi immediately offered one of her own office outfits for Youngmi to change into. In no time, Youngmi had transformed into one of the company's janitors. She then took an employee ID card from another locker and hurried to the main conference room. Youngmi lied that she had dropped her phone while cleaning and asked the building staff to open the meeting room door. Right in front of them, she discreetly installed the eavesdropping device under the table. After completing the mission flawlessly, Youngmi changed back into her stained clothes and rushed to Xia's school. A few days earlier, she had promised her daughter that she would attend the parent-teacher meeting. However, due to heavy traffic, by the time Youngmi arrived, it was already far too late. In the classroom, the person sitting beside her daughter was Seong Woo's wife. It turned out that when Zia couldn't reach her mother, she had called her father instead. Song Woo scolded Youngmi for being irresponsible and always absent when their child needed her. Although Youngmi felt wronged inside, she didn't have the confidence to defend herself. That evening, Seong Woo took Xia out for dinner and said he would bring her home later at night. Youngmi could only grit her teeth and leave the school helplessly. Sitting alone at the bus stop, she recalled the days after Xia was born, when their family was still happy and harmonious, and a deep sense of regret filled her heart. That same afternoon, as Yuna was leaving school, she was stopped by Jan Di. Using the fake name that Youngmi had registered, Jan Di had traced it back and discovered that Yuna was one of the girls in the USB photos. During dinner, Yuna casually mentioned, "Today I met one of Youngmi's co-workers," but she didn't seem to notice. The next day at work, Jan Di took the initiative to approach Youngmi, calling her by the name Yoon Ah and asking to talk in private. Shocked, Youngmi instantly realized her identity had been exposed. Through the alias Youngmi used, Jan Di had searched online and found information about Yoon Ah, only to be stunned when she discovered the girl was one of the children in the USB photos. Jan Di hurried to Yoon Ah's school, pretending to be a colleague of her mother's, trying to dig up information about Youngmi, and was shocked to learn that Youngmi's actual position at the company was just a janitor. The truth left Jan Di completely shaken. She initially wanted to call Young Shin to report the discovery, but at the last moment, she changed her mind and simply asked how much Youngmi would be paid for obtaining the intel, then quickly hung up. The next day, Jan Di intercepted Youngmi by the elevator, dragged her into the interrogation office, mocked her for using her daughter's identity to deceive others, and threatened to call the police. Hearing that, Youngmi became even calmer and openly admitted her wrongdoing, but she pointed out that if Jan Di really handed her over to the police, the ones in true danger would be Jan Di's own group. After all, insider trading was a serious financial crime, and Youngmi declared that she not only overheard Taekyung's illegal dealings, but had also secretly recorded the entire gathering. Her words immediately intimidated Jan Di. Youngmi then spoke frankly, "We're all just after money. I hope you can turn a blind eye to who I really am." Jan Di thought for a moment, and then asked how Youngmi had managed to obtain the voting information in the first place. Youngmi replied that she had used her position as a janitor, because executives at big companies instinctively looked down on cleaning staff, assuming they knew nothing. They often spoke freely in their presence. Janitors were part of the invisible lower class, but that very invisibility made them the perfect vessels for gathering intelligence. With her uniform, Youngmi could go anywhere, even into the men's restroom. Her explanation convinced Jan Di. She agreed not to expose Youngmi's identity, but on one condition. Once Youngmi got the insider information, Jan Di would take half the payout as compensation for covering her tracks. Youngmi had no choice but to accept. Though she had temporarily stabilized the situation, danger still surrounded her on all sides. At night, Youngmi called both Suja and In-kyung to her house. When In-kyung arrived at Youngmi's door, Do-young had been waiting for a while. He secretly handed In-kyung a bugged phone he had modified himself. While testing the eavesdropping function, he comforted her not to be sad about her cheating boyfriend, saying she would find someone better. In-kyung took the phone, feeling deeply grateful, though she no longer needed this device. Inside the room, Youngmi was restless, wanting to speak but hesitating. Finally, she said the payment for stealing the voting information had to be cut in half. Suja immediately shouted, "Based on what?" Youngmi thought for a moment, but chose not to reveal the truth, blaming Youngshin instead, saying he still didn't fully trust her, so he deducted half of the payment. Suja didn't doubt much and quickly accepted the excuse. Seeing the money almost in her hands now slipping away, she suddenly felt empty inside and wanted to eat something at Youngmi's house. Coincidentally, the instant noodles had run out, so Youngmi called Do Young, who was on his way to pick up Xia, asking him to buy some on the way home. Just as Do Young and Xia arrived at the supermarket, they happened to run into the landlord. During the small talk, the landlord found out that Do Young also lived in their house and initially thought he was Youngmi's boyfriend. Do Young hurriedly explained that he only rented the attic, but this remark made the landlord so angry that he couldn't hold it in anymore. Realizing that Youngmi had secretly become a second landlord, collecting deposits from other tenants, the landlord immediately rushed into Youngmi's house, demanding that she move out at once. Suja, standing nearby, couldn't stand it and stepped forward to defend Youngmi. Everyone argued noisily in the living room. Do Young had to take Xia back to their room, covering the little girl's ears and softly singing a children's song. In the past, the landlord had shown kindness to Youngmi and her daughter by waiving many fees, but unexpectedly, instead of being grateful, Youngmi had ulterior motives, leaving the landlord deeply disappointed. In the end, the landlord demanded that, if Youngmi wanted to stay, she must pay an additional 10 million won as a deposit, otherwise she had to move out immediately. Youngmi's situation left both Suja and In-kyung helpless, but since they couldn't afford to help her financially, they vented their anger on the way home by secretly throwing a soda can at the landlord. That night, Xia was frightened and haunted by the landlord's mocking words that they were a poor household. Youngmi comforted Xia, saying that happiness in this world couldn't be measured only by money. Even though they were poor, they would never lose their warmth. The next day was the voting meeting. Youngmi and In-kyung wore earpieces to eavesdrop, waiting for information that could bring them wealth. Meanwhile, Dongju kept pestering Suja, urging her to expose evidence of Youngmi's crime of leaking information. Dongju thought for a long time. That day, for some reason, Youngmi had gone to the floor where the fire alarm was triggered and left a USB drive on the printer table, which was no different from confessing her guilt. But throughout the whole process, Suja pretended to be clueless and remained completely unmoved. Dongju had no choice but to report the matter directly to the audit department, but Jan Di stopped him. Checking the time, the meeting had already started long ago, yet the earpieces of Youngmi and In-kyung picked up no sound at all. Feeling uneasy, Youngmi changed out of the janitor uniform she hadn't returned and went to the conference building to check things out herself. Unexpectedly, she ran into Gum-si in the elevator. Gum-si immediately sensed something strange about Youngmi, but didn't say anything at the moment. Youngmi had no time to explain and quickly rushed to the meeting room, only to find that the voting session had temporarily changed locations. The main reason was that earlier, when Youngmi tried to gather information, she had made a suspicious phone call. It seemed the confidentiality of this internal voting meeting was extremely strict. Youngmi's plan had completely failed. By the time she arrived at the new venue, everyone had already left except for a trash bin in the corner, leaving no clues behind. At that moment, Gum-si asked to meet with Youngmi, wanting to know why she was wearing the janitor uniform there. Gum-si wasn't angry at all. Instead, she wanted to understand Youngmi's struggles and see if there was any way she could help her. Youngmi thought for a moment and decided to take a gamble, confessing to Gum-si about her act of stealing information and trying to persuade her to join in. Since she had missed the voting meeting, Youngmi had to seize any chance to make up for it. Gum-si worked as a janitor there, so she might be able to obtain the meeting results from higher-level executives. However, Gum-si had already embraced a Buddhist way of life, especially after recovering from a serious illness, and had long seen through the vanity of fame and wealth. To her, money was merely an external possession. Peace and comfort were the true ideals. Youngmi gave a bitter smile and shared her own miserable situation. She urgently needed money. Otherwise, she would soon be homeless, starving, and forced to drag her 2 children through hardship. Gum-si's heart softened. Although she couldn't take part in the crime, she promised to help Youngmi as much as she could. Turning around, she handed over the shredded paper from the conference room's shredder to Youngmi. The 3 women spent the entire night piecing the papers together and finally managed to restore the voting result document. Youngmi then texted Young-shin, requesting to meet in person to inform him of the result. Young-shin agreed, but also demanded that she bring evidence proving the voting outcome. Suja immediately took action, recreating a perfect duplicate of the document and asking a seal maker to reproduce the company stamp. The finished copy looked completely authentic. The document successfully fooled Young-shin. On the day they met, he received the papers and handed the payment to Youngmi. Just as he was about to leave, however, Young-shin suddenly asked Youngmi to listen to the song playing in the cafe, saying it was from a movie he had watched as a child. Though he couldn't remember the title, Youngmi acted naturally, telling him to let her know when he remembered. After receiving the payment, Suja and In-kyung were overjoyed, but Youngmi's troubles were far from over. The landlord, having not received the additional 10 million won deposit, began showing the house to new tenants. To make matters worse, on the very day of the viewing, Seong-woo unexpectedly brought his mother to visit, and both witnessed the humiliating scene of Young-mi being on the verge of eviction. This time, Young-mi could only juggle between Jeon-di and the landlord, begging one side to temporarily spare her. She first negotiated with Jeon-di, but Jeon-di, driven solely by profit, gave her no chance and even pretended to call Young-shin to threaten her with exposure. Defeated, Young-mi was forced to hand over half of her payment. Seeing her money gone, Young-mi had no choice but to plead with the landlord for a few more days, but the landlord remained firm and unmoved. Young-mi's mother also made it clear that she had no money to help. Do-young wanted to lend a hand, but his savings amounted to only about 1.5 million won, far from enough. Desperate, Young-mi tried to borrow from loan sharks, but because she had never paid back on time, even the lenders now avoided her. In despair, Young-mi once again stepped into the casino, hoping fate might open a path for her and rescue her from her increasingly difficult life. But as the dice rolled across the numbers, Lady Luck still refused to smile upon her. At her lowest point, Young-mi suddenly received a message from Young-shin. He told her the name of the movie that featured the song they had heard the other day. Young-mi burst into tears. She looked at the lush green weeds growing in a roadside flower pot, wondering when she herself might finally embrace a new beginning. She continued working to earn money and returned home to do housework. While moving a blanket, she accidentally dropped a casino chip she had brought back. A few days later, the results of the school construction bid were announced on television. It turned out to be the same construction company that Young-mi's group had provided information for. Soo-ja and In-kyung were overjoyed at their success, but only Young-mi remained downcast. To her, the money still wasn't nearly enough. Young-shin also heard the good news and turned on the secret phone he used to contact Young-mi, but he couldn't help feeling a bit disappointed, because earlier, he had sent a message to Young-mi telling her the name of the movie that featured the song played in the restaurant that day, but she never replied. Using the successful bid as an excuse, Young-shin directly called Young-mi and invited her to meet the next evening. Not knowing what he wanted, Young-mi had no choice but to put on makeup again and go to meet him. However, after arriving at the restaurant, something unexpected happened. Due to the receptionist's mistake in failing to make a reservation for Young-shin, he became furious and shouted to see the manager. Seeing the frightened receptionist, Young-mi couldn't bear it and gently persuaded Young-shin to eat somewhere else instead. Seeing her take the initiative to let the staff off the hook, Young-shin also decided to drop the matter. Young-mi could genuinely empathize. Missing one meal was trivial, but if he filed a complaint, that employee might lose her job. Life was already hard enough, and everyone struggling to make a living had their own difficulties. Young-mi was always willing to understand others. Young-shin was taken aback for a moment, then suddenly laughed, finding Young-mi to be truly a mysterious woman. Since they had left the restaurant, he asked what she wanted to eat. She answered, a convenience store, but he took it as a joke. Young-mi simply wanted a simple meal, and coincidentally, he knew a place. They went to a small, old residential area. On the second floor was a tiny red bean porridge shop. The walls and furniture were already darkened with age, showing that it had been open for a very long time. Young-shin sighed that the shop had existed even before he was born. The two sat for quite a while without anyone coming to take their order. Young-shin stood up and walked toward the kitchen, only to find the old lady who sold the red bean porridge collapsed on the floor. Seeing this, he suddenly felt dizzy himself and couldn't even manage to call for an ambulance. At that critical moment, Young-mi grabbed his hand, made the emergency call, and took the elderly woman to the hospital. Sitting in the hospital, Young-shin looked utterly dejected. Worried about leaving him alone, Young-mi called Do-young and asked him to look after her two daughters for the night. Do-young immediately told the girls that their mother would be home late, but Yuna was filled with concern because she had found the casino chip that Young-mi had dropped at home and suspected that her mother had gone gambling again. Because of the old woman's situation, Young-mi and Young-shin were busy all evening and hadn't eaten a thing, so they finally went back to a convenience store. It was clear that Young-shin had never eaten convenience store food before. When he tried a bite, he found it surprisingly good. After spending the night together, Young-shin felt more than ever that Young-mi was different from others in the industry. She had a unique charm and was genuinely intriguing. Near dawn, Young-shin and Young-mi finally left the hospital. Young-shin helped Young-mi call a cab to take her back to an upscale apartment complex, but once she got in the car, she immediately changed the destination to her real home. After the ride ended, Young-shin received a message showing the taxi fare deduction, which made him suspicious. The hospital wasn't far from the luxury apartment complex, so why was the fare so high? That day, as soon as Young-mi returned home, she saw the new tenants barging in, inspecting the place and estimating renovation costs. It was only then that Du Young realized Young-mi hadn't managed to gather the money. He willingly offered to lend her a bit more, and quickly handed it to the landlord to help her keep the house. Unexpectedly, Young-mi burst into tears. It was only then that she confessed the truth. It wasn't that she didn't have enough money. She didn't have a single one left. This shocked Du Young, who couldn't believe it. Not long ago, he had given her some money, and together with the deposit from before, it totaled over 6 million won. Yet in the blink of an eye, Young-mi had spent it all. Du Young started to sense that Young-mi was hiding something from him. His attitude turned cold, and he decided not to speak to her again until she explained everything clearly. Feeling dejected, Young-mi lowered her head, unsure how to begin. When she returned to her room, she caught Yuna secretly looking at her phone. Young-mi immediately snatched it back and asked what she was doing. At that moment, Yuna pulled out the casino chip and questioned her mother, asking if she had returned to gambling. Young-mi quickly denied it, but Yuna's face clearly showed she didn't believe her. Frustrated, Young-mi scrubbed the floor, feeling both hurt and angry inside. Stains on the floor could be erased with enough effort, but why were the stains left on a person's life so deep? Even after correcting her mistakes, she could never regain people's trust. That day, Tae-kyung, accompanied by an employee from the audit department, went back to his office to retrieve his personal belongings. What he wanted was the secret phone used to leak confidential information. However, after searching under the desk for a long time, he couldn't find it. The phone had mysteriously vanished. He immediately called Jandi to report it. Seeing how nervous Tae-kyung was about the phone, Jandi guessed there must be some secret inside that even she didn't know about. But it wasn't the right time for internal conflict, so Tae-kyung asked her to confirm the whereabouts of the phone. Late at night, Jandi sneaked into Tae-kyung's office. After groping under the desk for a while, she suddenly remembered. Young-mi had once said, "A janitor's identity makes them invisible in the building." It seemed very likely that Young-mi was the one who had taken the phone. That evening, while Young-mi was doing housework, she suddenly received a call from one of Zia's classmates' parents. Zia had gone to that classmate's house to play that day. The parent told Young-mi that a brooch had gone missing and that only Zia had been near the clothes area, asking Young-mi to speak to her daughter. Young-mi hurriedly explained that Xia would never steal, but she was soon proven wrong. When Xia came home, under her mother's questioning, she handed over the missing brooch. Seeing her daughter trembling, Young-mi knew the girl hadn't done it out of bad character. Sure enough, Xia sobbed and said, "I don't want us to be kicked out. If I sell this brooch, we can keep living here." Those few words broke Young-mi's heart. Though still young, Xia understood everything happening around her. The fact that she was already worrying about survival at such a young age made Young-mi feel even more guilty. She hugged Xia tightly, promising that they would never move away, and reminding her never to touch other people's belongings, no matter how poor they were. Then, Young-mi called the classmate's mother, admitted the wrongdoing, and pleaded for her not to spread the matter. After hanging up, she let out a deep sigh, realizing that her own actions of stealing information weren't so different from taking what belonged to others. She was a bad example, yet still tried to teach her child to be honest. The next day, Young-mi took a day off. After dropping Xia off at school, she drove to the riverside, where Suja had once taken them to sit in silence. After relaxing for a while, she called Young-shin. That night, after they had handled the situation with the old woman, Young-shin mentioned that Tae-kyung had previously planned a short-selling scheme, but since it carried high risk, he had been hesitant to proceed. Young-mi hadn't been interested at the time, but now it seemed she had no other choice. To protect her family, she had to take another gamble. Seeing her agree to go through with the plan, Young-shin also agreed to join in. He handed her a bag containing 100 million won in cash and whispered about the company whose stock they were going to short sell, predicting that its price would bottom out next month due to a major lawsuit scandal. At that time, Young-mi would use the money to buy large amounts of the company's stock under someone else's name. That way, she could avoid an investigation by the Financial Supervisory Service. Young-shin promised her, "If the stock price doubles next month, I'll give you 10%, around 20 million won." Young-mi nodded and hugged the bag of cash tightly to her chest. This was her final chance to change her life. She had to make it work. The next day, following Young-shin's instructions, Young-mi went to the bank to open 2 accounts. She deposited 50 million won into each, one under her own name and the other under Xia's. To justify the large deposit, Young-mi lied that it was an inheritance left by Xia's grandfather. However, the bank clerk told her, "If it's a large gifted amount, you'll need to pay gift tax." It seemed she couldn't use Xia's name after all, and had to find another adult to open the account instead. Young-mi was left confused. Her frequent disappearances in recent days made Suja and In-kyung increasingly worried. Through Du Young, they learned about Young-mi's dire situation and her heavy gambling debts. This made them feel sorry for her. They even prepared money to lend her to get through the crisis. But she refused, insisting she had her own way to resolve things. Just as Youngmi was about to leave, Jeondae stopped her and sharply demanded to know where Taekyung's phone was. Youngmi arrogantly admitted that she had taken it and warned Jeondae, "Don't provoke me, or I'll make the criminal evidence on that phone public." Right when the two were arguing, an audit department employee suddenly entered. Youngmi was blocked by Jeondae inside the restroom and interrogated about the whereabouts of Taekyung's secret phone. Unfazed by the threats, Youngmi fought back, and the two engaged in a fierce scuffle. In the end, other staff members from the audit department intervened and pulled them apart. Seeing that Youngmi was too tough to intimidate, Jeondae turned her attention to someone easier to exploit, In Kyung. As expected, In Kyung was timid and easily frightened. The moment Jeondae mentioned looking for the phone, she became visibly anxious. Her demeanor immediately revealed that she was hiding something worth digging into. As expected, with only a few threats and a fake call to the police, In Kyung broke down in tears and confessed that she had taken Taekyung's phone. She originally planned not to mention Youngmi's involvement, but Jeondae was already certain that the phone was now with Youngmi. Jeondae told her that not only did she know about the phone, but she was also aware of their previous acts of eavesdropping on internal information and trading stocks. Hearing this, In Kyung cried even harder, completely falling into Jeondae's control. At that point, Jeondae began to manipulate her, demanding that she keep their conversation secret and quietly assist in the investigation. In Kyung left Jeondae's office looking dejected, which made Youngmi a little suspicious, though In Kyung refused to reveal anything. That day, Young Shin called Youngmi again, inviting her to come over for dinner. Youngmi had no choice but to change clothes, put on makeup, and arrive on time. As soon as she sat down, she brought up the short-selling plan. However, tonight, Young Shin just wanted to thank her for helping with his grandmother's situation, and told her not to talk about work. After saying that, he went into the kitchen to start cooking. His cooking movements looked quite clumsy. Youngmi waited for a long time and wanted to lend him a hand. As she put her bag down, she accidentally dropped her wallet under the chair. Young Shin, not wanting his guest to help, told her to wait a bit longer. When Youngmi stepped out of the kitchen, she noticed a piano in his house and showed great interest, eagerly hoping to hear him play. After a while, the food was finally served. Before they began eating, Young Shin asked about her marital status. Upon learning that she was divorced with 2 daughters and had turned to leaking information only to support them, he shared that he, like Taekyung, was also divorced but had no children. His involvement in illegal dealings wasn't driven by any special reason. He simply wanted to build up wealth. Youngmi couldn't quite understand his mindset and began eating the clam noodles. Unexpectedly, the first bite was full of sand. Apparently, Young Shin hadn't washed the clams properly. When she asked, he admitted that it was his first time cooking, but Youngmi didn't mind. Compared to skill, his clam noodles were full of sincerity. After dinner, Young Shin began to play the piano. When the piece ended, Youngmi clapped in admiration. She mentioned that when she was young, she had also enrolled in piano lessons, but often skipped class and couldn't persist with learning. Young Shin replied that he had never taken formal lessons because his family was poor when he was little. Later, he taught himself how to play this one song, and it was the only song he knew. After saying that, he pulled the bench halfway out, inviting Youngmi to sit and play together. The atmosphere became warm and pleasant. The meeting ended on a cheerful note. When Young Shin walked Youngmi to the door, he reminded her that in a few days, the verdict on the short-selling case would be announced, and told her to make sure there were no mistakes with the accounts. Youngmi nodded, showing confidence that everything was under control. After she got home and stepped out of the car, she suddenly realized that Young Shin hadn't paid the taxi fare for her this time. She started searching her bag for her wallet, but couldn't find it anywhere. At that moment, Seong-woo drove up with Yuna. It turned out that Yuna, worried her mother had gone gambling again, had told her father. Youngmi quickly borrowed Seong-woo's card to pay the taxi fare in advance. Seeing how financially strained she was, Seong-woo could only sigh. Then, the two of them sat down together in a park. Seong-woo frankly asked whether she had been gambling again recently. Youngmi immediately denied it, but Seong-woo thought she was just being stubborn and gently urged her to let him take care of the children, put down her burdens, and live a lighter, easier life. Although Youngmi didn't see her children as a burden, if she couldn't afford to raise them, then they inevitably became one. Late that night, after talking with Seong-woo, she thought about confronting Yuna, but gave up at the door. Yuna's lack of trust in her was ultimately her own fault. Ever since Jeondae began targeting her, In Kyung had been living in constant fear. That day at work, Jeondae gave her an ultimatum, ordering her to find a way to retrieve Taekyung's phone and hand it over by next Monday morning. If she was even 1 minute late, Jeondae would call the police. After work, In Kyung planned to go to Youngmi's house and look for a chance to take the phone. But that day, Youngmi didn't go home. she went to visit her mother instead. Young-mi treated her mother to a meal and managed to persuade her to open a bank account under her name. When Young-mi returned home, In-kyung showed up at her door. Gathering her courage, she approached Young-mi and said she wasn't feeling well and wanted to lie down for a bit. At that moment, Young-mi had just finished cooking and was feeding her two daughters, so she told In-kyung to rest in the bedroom. Once inside, In-kyung shut the door and began frantically searching through the room. When she found the phone, she immediately started looking for an excuse to leave. Just as she was about to walk out the door, guilt overwhelmed her, and she said softly to Young-mi that she had always truly cared about her, leaving Young-mi stunned and confused. In the afternoon, Young-mi received a call from her mother. It turned out that her mother, being talkative, had told her brother and sister-in-law that Young-mi had opened a bank account under her name and transferred 50 million won into it. Upon hearing this, her brother immediately transferred the 50 million into his own account and demanded that Young-mi explain where the money came from. If she couldn't give a clear explanation, he threatened to report her to the police. The news hit her like a bolt of lightning. Young-mi rushed to her brother's house as fast as she could, shouting and demanding that he return the money, but her brother stubbornly insisted that the money was suspicious and likely illegal. Completely devastated, Young-mi collapsed to the floor and burst into tears, only to be thrown out of the house. Her world crumbled completely. The only chance she had to survive her desperate situation had been crushed by her own family. That night, on her way home, Young-mi was hit by a bicycle. She lay motionless on the ground, too exhausted to get up. Seong-woo's words echoed in her mind, "Give the children to me and live a little more lightly." At that moment, Young-mi finally admitted to herself that she wasn't capable of raising her children. It wasn't about love, it was simply reality. She called Seong-woo and agreed to send the children to live with him, but with one condition: whenever I want to visit them, no matter how late it is, you must let me in. After making this painful decision, Young-mi went out. Her mind was blank when she suddenly received a call from Young-shin. He told her that he had found the wallet she had dropped, but noticed she didn't seem to remember losing it, so he hadn't mentioned it earlier and planned to return it another time. When Young-mi got home and searched the drawer for ointment for her injuries, she suddenly realized that Tae-kyung's phone was gone. She immediately connected it to In-kyung's strange behavior earlier that day, asking repeatedly about the phone after work and going straight into her bedroom. No one else could have taken it. On Monday morning, as soon as she arrived at work, Young-mi told Suja about it. Shocked, Suja said that In-kyung had just gone to the audit department's office. Young-mi and Suja rushed there, hoping to stop her from handing over the phone, but it was too late. In-kyung had already given it to Jeon-di. At that moment, Suja and Young-mi broke down the door and rushed in, using force to snatch back the phone to make In-kyung believe them. Young-mi revealed that Jeon-di and Tae-kyung were on the same side, both members of the organization leaking internal documents. After grabbing the phone, the three of them ran straight up to the rooftop and finally breathed a sigh of relief. Young-mi began to explain that she had actually been exposed in front of Jeon-di long ago, but didn't say anything because she didn't want everyone to worry. However, In-kyung felt that Young-mi stayed silent just to keep making money, because if she had known Young-mi's identity was exposed, she would have definitely withdrawn from the operation. Suja also felt that Young-mi never saw the two of them as teammates and always made decisions on her own. Being criticized, Young-mi didn't explain, instead said carelessly that she was indeed a terrible person. After all, her life was already ruined, so losing more didn't matter. In-kyung firmly wanted to quit the plan, but Suja hesitated. She had already tasted the sweetness of money and didn't want to give up this chance to earn more. The next day, Seong-woo went to school to pick up Yuna. Learning that she would have to live with her father from now on, Yuna couldn't accept it. But Seong-woo told the girl to think about Young-mi. To support the family, Young-mi worked hard every day, and now she was also under the pressure of paying rent. These burdens would eventually crush her. Seong-woo called Young-mi to inform her about Yuna's resistance. When Young-mi got home and was about to talk to her daughter, she turned around and saw Shia picking up a call from the secret phone, speaking a few words with Young-shin. Young-mi immediately panicked, hung up, and only felt relieved after confirming that Shia hadn't revealed anything about their situation at home. That night, Young-mi met Yuna on her way back from school. After thinking it over for a night, Yuna finally agreed to live with Seong-woo. Mother and daughter chatted and laughed as they walked home. At that moment, Young-shin called again, but Young-mi hung up. Nothing was more precious than her final moments with her daughter. However, the scene shifted. Young-shin was now standing downstairs at her building. Tae-kyung still remembered the name Shia. He immediately contacted Young-shin and informed her about it. The secret phone had disappeared into thin air, and when it was turned on again, a child had answered it. That seemed extremely suspicious. Tae-kyung recalled the little girl who had called herself Shia. Young-shin immediately thought of the wallet she had picked up from Young-mi, which also had that same name embroidered on it. It appeared that the girl and Young-mi were somehow connected. Young-shin asked Tae-kyung if he had heard anything from Jeon-di about the recent turmoil within the organization. Tae-kyung replied replied that he didn't know anything. John-D hadn't said a word. Doubts had begun to grow in Young Shin's mind, and he wanted to confirm something for himself. He immediately called John-D and asked what she had talked about with Young-Mi in the taxi after leaving the gathering that day. John-D, wanting to hide Young-Mi's true identity, replied that she had talked about family matters and mentioned her 2 sons. However, that statement revealed a major flaw. Young-Mi had clearly told Young Shin that she had 2 daughters. This made Young Shin increasingly suspicious of her. That evening, after having dinner with Wu Chang, Young Shin ran into a lady friend while leaving and noticed that the brooch she was wearing looked exactly like the one Young-Mi had. The woman told him that the brooch was a special gift from a certain department store for their super VIP customers, and there were only 3 of them in all of Korea. Coincidentally, that lady was Young-Mi's employer. Later that night, Young Shin called the lady and asked if she knew the names Yun-Ah and Shi-Ah. After thinking for a moment, she realized those names sounded familiar and suddenly remembered they were the daughters of her housemaid, Young-Mi. Then, Young Shin contacted the taxi company to check the ride he had paid for Young-Mi that day. Based on the information he received, he went to the place where Young-Mi had gotten off, an old residential neighborhood. After getting out of the car, Young Shin walked along the narrow road ahead and suddenly overheard a conversation between Young-Mi and Yun-Ah. Hiding nearby, he called Young-Mi, but she hung up and continued walking home with her daughter. At that moment, Young Shin finally confirmed that the new member who had infiltrated the organization was actually a janitor in disguise. Realizing the truth, he returned home and poured out the rice wine that Young-Mi had once recommended to him. Young-Mi had not only deceived the organization, but also betrayed his personal feelings. He had once considered her a friend and treated her sincerely. That day, Do-young dressed neatly and invited In-kyung to go with him to an old parking lot to buy a coffee truck. Though Do-young seemed simple and quiet, he was careful and meticulous in everything he did, always thinking about In-kyung in every detail of the purchase. With Do-young by her side, In-kyung felt safe. At that moment, Do-young mentioned that Young-Mi had decided to send her 2 daughters to live with Seung-woo. In-kyung was shocked. Do-young also felt helpless, but, since life was difficult, Young-Mi had realized she could no longer take good care of her children. This made In-kyung feel sympathy for her. However, when they got to the securities company, Young-Mi remained cold and distant toward her and Suja. In-kyung wanted to start a conversation but couldn't find the right moment, so she told Suja about it. After hearing this, Suja suggested they visit Young-Mi after work to use the opportunity to reconcile. In-kyung didn't have the courage to face Young-Mi, so Suja decisively opened a bottle of liquor to give her some courage. Unexpectedly, In-kyung had a very low tolerance for alcohol. After finishing the bottle, she ended up collapsing in front of Young-mi's door, drunk and causing a scene. Hearing noise outside, Do-young opened the door just in time to catch In-kyung fainting into his arms. At that moment, Young-mi and Xia also returned home. Do-young took Xia out to eat hamburgers, leaving the 3 women inside to talk properly. While In-kyung was still unconscious, Suja told Young-mi that In-kyung had gotten drunk because she was worried about her and wanted to apologize but couldn't find the right opportunity. Knowing In-kyung's timid personality, Young-mi said she hadn't taken her previous words to heart for a long time. When In-kyung finally woke up, Young-mi brought her a bowl of hangover soup, and the 2 women finally reconciled. That day, while Young-mi was at work, she received a message from Young Shin. He wanted to meet her once about a work matter. After some thought, Young-mi agreed. After work, she went to the arranged place. As soon as she sat down, Young Shin took out a wallet and asked who the name Xia on it belonged to. Young-mi quickly put the wallet away and said it belonged to her younger sister. Young-mi also had something to tell Young Shin. She wanted to withdraw from the current, short-selling plan. Since there were some issues with her account, she would return all of his money once she resolved them. Young Shin simply nodded, not exposing Young-mi's lie. The next day, Young-mi helped her 2 daughters finish packing and prepared to take them to Seong-woo's house. The children were reluctant to leave their mother, but were mature enough to understand that being apart for now would allow her to live a better life. The 2 girls waited in the car while a loan shark suddenly appeared, looking for Young-mi to collect his debt. He tried to start a conversation with the girls, but was immediately driven away by Young-mi. She warned him never to show up in front of her children again, or she would die with him. Young-mi then drove toward Seong-woo's house. As she passed an intersection, Young Shin, hiding in a corner, followed closely behind in his car. After saying goodbye to her daughters, Young-mi stopped on her way home to buy a lottery ticket, fantasizing about a miracle that could change her fate. However, when she scratched it, it turned out to be nothing more than a blank piece of paper, just another ordinary ticket. At last, Young-mi accepted her fate. Luck had never been on her side. Just then, In Kyung called, wanting to check on how she was feeling. Young-mi spoke as usual, showing no sign of sadness. But when she returned to her car, she realized she had forgotten to pull the keys out. They were locked inside. That tiny mistake finally triggered the sorrow she had been suppressing. She sank to the ground in tears, crying that she couldn't drive home anymore. Although she said the keys were locked, what filled her mind were thoughts of her two daughters. Having raised them with her own hands, she knew every detail of their habits, and even the things Yuna must avoid when she's sick. She also knew that Xia often made up stories, lying that her classmates had given her food. Yet Young-mi never exposed her lies, only listened, quietly. Young-mi knew her life was a failure, but she couldn't deny that she was a good mother who deeply cared for her daughters. Raising them to grow up healthy and kind was the thing she was most proud of. However, now that life had forced her hand, she had to send away even the only emotional support she had left. The pain was unbearable. Young-mi couldn't hold back her emotions anymore. Ignoring the looks of passers-by, she cried her heart out by the roadside. From a distance, Young-shin saw her sitting there in tears and couldn't help but feel a pang of sympathy. At that moment, a motorbike nearly hit her, and Young-shin instinctively honked to warn her. His eyes reddened as he wanted to get out and comfort her, but he suppressed that urge and quietly drove away. Ever since Young-shin told Tae-kyung about the organization's new infiltrator, Tae-kyung had been uneasy. He called Jan-di and pressed her, asking, "Who exactly is that Yuna?" Since Jan-di had already made secret transactions with Young-mi, she absolutely couldn't admit that she knew her true identity. She could only tell Tae-kyung that this Yuna was a woman brought in by Young-shin, who claimed to be Tae-kyung's business partner and was in charge of gathering insider information when the securities firm was investigating him. But Tae-kyung had never had any such partner. Furious, he went to confront Young-shin and demanded an explanation. Realizing Tae-kyung already knew the truth, Young-shin no longer hid anything, admitting that he too had been deceived. Young-mi knew their project details like the back of her hand. Hearing this, Tae-kyung insisted on meeting Yuna. The next day, Young-shin sent a message to Young-mi, asking her to come to his house. Young-mi initially intended to refuse, but Young-shin reminded her that she still owed him a huge investment debt. Having no other choice, she reluctantly agreed to meet him. The next day, as soon as Young-mi stepped into Young-shin's house, he locked the front door behind her. At the same time, Tae-kyung was driving toward Young-shin's house. He called Jan-di and said he would soon uncover Yuna's true identity. Hearing that, Jan-di panicked, afraid that Young-mi might expose the fact that she had known everything all along and had secretly been trading with her. That day, Young-shin baked bread and made coffee for Young-mi. He began to talk about one of his own secrets. He had never actually liked red wine. He only drank it because everyone else did at social gatherings. He had memorized fancy reviews from books to sound sophisticated, making people believe he was a wine enthusiast. Young-shin admitted he had never truly been honest, not even in his marriage. Young-mi nodded helplessly, saying that this was simply how modern people lived. Everyone wore a social mask. Young-shin then asked in return, "What does red wine mean to you? Do you also wear a mask?" At that moment, Jan-di sent a message to Young-mi, warning her to leave Young-shin's house immediately because Tae-kyung was on his way there. Young-mi rushed to open the front door but couldn't unlock it, no matter how hard she tried. Just then, Young-shin's voice echoed from behind her. He called out Young-mi's real name. Startled, she could only turn around in shock to look at him. Step by step, Young-shin approached, cornering her at the door. But when he saw the fear, panic, and helplessness on her face, his heart softened once again. He unlocked the door and told her to leave before he changed his mind. "Get out of here." Young-mi could only whisper, "I'm sorry," then ran out of the house without looking back. Outside the gate, Tae-kyung had just arrived by car. Seeing Young-mi fleeing in panic, he didn't chase after her. Instead, he smiled slyly. Tae-kyung wasn't in a hurry to catch her, because he knew she had already run out of options. From the moment he learned the organization had a new member, Jan-di had told him that Woo Chang was planning to kick him out. This made Tae-kyung extremely anxious. He couldn't afford to lose his source of income. With no way out, he called Woo Chang and begged him to let him stay. For that reason, Tae-kyung was willing to do anything for Woo Chang. Hearing this, Woo Chang told him to talk about Young-mi's background. However, Tae-kyung didn't know her at all. The sly old fox Woo Chang immediately sensed something suspicious and decided to meet Tae-kyung in person. After comparing their statements, they confirmed that Young-mi was the imposter who had infiltrated the organization. She knew the details of their previous project and had been introduced by Young-shin. Woo Chang and Tae-kyung concluded that the real mole inside the organization was either John D or Young Shin. Wu Chang decided that before dealing with Young Mi, he had to find the true traitor first. After secretly discussing the plan, Taekyung went to see Young Shin and told him to arrange a meeting with Young Mi. Young Shin followed his instructions. The next day, on his way to Young Shin's house, Taekyung deliberately leaked this information to John D. Panicking that Young Mi's situation might expose her own involvement, John D immediately tried to call her. Unexpectedly, Wu Chang appeared out of nowhere and snatched the phone from her hand. Meanwhile, as Young Mi was running away, she received a call from John D, who told her to come to a designated location, saying there was something important she needed to tell her. When Young Mi arrived, she noticed something strange about John D's expression. Wu Chang was standing right beside her. He slapped Young Mi hard across the face, knocking her to the ground. Then, Wu Chang restrained her and prepared to take her away. On the road, when another car passed by, Young Mi seized the chance to force Wu Chang to stop and managed to escape from the vehicle. But Wu Chang didn't bother chasing her. He wanted to deal with the internal traitor first. After all, he believed Young Mi wouldn't escape his grasp for long. Wu Chang then brought John D back to the company and interrogated her about Young Mi. Terrified and teary-eyed, John D still refused to reveal Young Mi's true identity. In anger, Wu Chang poured hot coffee over her and warned her not to lie to him again. Otherwise, not only she but also her son would face disaster. On the other side, Young Mi ran all the way to a corner and hid, crying her heart out in pain. At that moment, Yuna called. Young Mi quickly wiped her tears and tried to sound normal so her daughter wouldn't worry. At Song Woo's house, his current wife was unpacking the daughter's luggage. She came across a letter that Young Mi had left behind. It was filled with notes about the girl's daily routines and dietary restrictions. After reading it, the wife couldn't hold back her tears. She had always had a bad impression of Young Mi, thinking she was a failed woman, a gambler, and definitely not a good mother, and that she herself could do better. But now she realized that Young Mi knew every little detail about her daughter's lives and had devoted herself wholeheartedly to caring for them. Seong Woo also read the letter and could only sigh deeply. When Young Mi returned home, she told Do Young to pack up and leave immediately. She herself didn't dare stay at home either and spent the night in a public bathhouse. Not only that, she didn't even dare go to work, having to ask In Kyung and Suja to request leave on her behalf. Young Mi even thought about borrowing money from the loan shark again so she could hide for a while, but unfortunately, she went at the wrong time. That night, the loan shark had just been humiliated by some old schoolmates and was in a foul mood. He refused to lend her a single cent. With no other choice, Young Mi returned to the securities company to work. She went to find Jan Di, hoping for her help, but Jan Di told her that even Wu Chang already knew she was a fraud, and there was nothing she could do. Although Jan Di didn't expose Young Mi's true background, she warned her not to stay there or appear near her again, promising to help her find another job instead. The next day, Jan Di managed to arrange an interview for Young Mi and told her to go that afternoon. Young Mi arrived at the interview location on time, only to realize too late that it was a trap set by Wu Chang. John Di had no way to protect her and could only obey Wu Chang's orders to lure her out. Young Mi was captured by a group of thugs and taken to an abandoned building. Taekyung and Young Shin also arrived there shortly after. Under Wu Chang's interrogation, John Di finally confessed that she had long known about Young Mi's true identity. The reason she kept it secret was because she had been splitting intelligence fees with Young Mi, but she believed it was justified, as Young Mi's information had always been accurate and useful to the team. After hearing John Di's explanation, Wu Chang turned to Young Shin and demanded to know why he had brought Young Mi into the organization in the first place. Young Shin could only shake his head. He admitted that he had never once doubted the authenticity of Young Mi's identity. Wu Chang stood up, roughly grabbed Young Mi by the shoulders, and told Taekyung to take a good look at her face. Taekyung found her somewhat familiar but couldn't remember exactly who she was. However, anyone who had access to his office had to be someone from the securities company. Wu Chang forced Young Mi to reveal her identity, but she showed no fear. Instead of answering, she threatened him, saying she had a recording of their very first meeting, and if anything happened to her, someone would hand it over to the police. Wu Chang only sneered, thinking that wasn't a strong bargaining chip. Even if she did that, they could still find a way to deal with the police. But Young Mi would have to pay with her life. After thinking for a moment, Young Mi softened her tone and pleaded for mercy. She admitted she was a fraud, but insisted that her joining the organization had never caused harm. It had been mutually beneficial. She said she didn't want to die meaninglessly. Though her words sounded sincere, Wu Chang still didn't fully trust her. He ordered Young Shin to follow Young Mi and retrieve whatever evidence she might be holding. Young Shin followed her home. Once inside, he looked around the cramped, shabby apartment, feeling a twinge of emotion. Youngmi handed over Taekyung's secret phone, admitting she never had any recording, and that her earlier claim was just a desperate bluff. Youngshin snatched the phone and turned to leave. Once back in his car, he reported the situation to Woo Chang, but he deliberately hid Youngmi's home address, claiming he had retrieved the phone elsewhere. He even suggested sparing her life, saying she was just a nobody. That day, In Kyung went to the bank to withdraw money. She was about to buy her coffee truck. She was in a very good mood. Unexpectedly, the moment she saw the balance, In Kyung's smile froze instantly. It turned out that her ex-boyfriend had already taken all her money and even texted her, just borrowing it for a bit. After hearing the news, Do Young immediately went to In Kyung's side. He was furious, shouting that this was theft, and told In Kyung she must report it to the police. But In Kyung burst into tears and threw herself into Do Young's arms. She was still too kind-hearted, unwilling to let her ex-boyfriend become someone with a criminal record. Do Young had no choice but to help In Kyung track down her ex-boyfriend. In Kyung remembered that before withdrawing the money, her ex-boyfriend had used her credit card to buy a bus ticket. The two of them immediately rushed to the station and caught the ex-boyfriend just as he was about to take the money and go enjoy himself. The ex-boyfriend thought In Kyung was naive and kind, and glibly said that her money was also his money. After traveling for 3 months, he would come back and propose to In Kyung. At that moment, Do Young stepped forward to protect In Kyung. The ex-boyfriend started acting, shouting that In Kyung had secretly been seeing another man behind his back. He claimed that he was the one who had been hurt. He successfully deceived In Kyung and made her look like the bad person instead. As the ex-boyfriend tried to leave, Do Young, anxious and angry, made a move. But the ex-boyfriend, clearly an expert at playing the victim, immediately threw himself onto the ground. To prevent Do Young from being sued for assault, In Kyung had no choice but to let her ex-boyfriend go. Watching him run off with her money, In Kyung cried loudly, blaming herself for being so useless, always falling into manipulative relationships. Do Young felt heartbroken beside her and comforted her, saying that she had only met the wrong person. It wasn't love's fault. Meanwhile, Suja sat quietly at the airport, shedding silent tears. She had accidentally discovered that her son and daughter-in-law had been secretly messaging each other, using the money she gave them, discussing everything big or small with each other. Her son's explanation was cold. He bluntly said that she couldn't help anyway, so there was no need for her to know about his troubles. Her son could have studied abroad in the US. But because Suja had no money, she forced him to attend a Korean university instead. He had always held a grudge against her for that. Suja invited In Kyung to have a drink together that evening. She had planned to call Youngmi too, but Youngmi never answered the phone, and Youngshin discovered that she had left her backpack in his car. That night, he quietly went to Youngmi's house to return it, only to see her being attacked by a man dressed in black. Youngshin fought with the attacker but ultimately failed to stop him from escaping. He found Youngmi covered in bruises and held her in his arms. Not long after, Suja and In Kyung arrived at Youngmi's house, and as soon as they entered, they sensed something was wrong. Before leaving, Youngshin told them to quickly take Youngmi away from there. Seeing the miserable state of the beaten Youngmi, the three women burst into tears. After leaving, the attacker called Woo Chang to report that someone had entered Youngmi's house, causing the mission to fail. Woo Chang showed little reaction. After all, Youngmi was just a minor figure. Scaring her a bit was enough. On his way home, Youngshin realized immediately that the assassin had been sent by Woo Chang. He called Woo Chang, wanting to meet him in person, but Woo Chang refused, saying, "I don't have time tonight." Youngshin didn't push further. As soon as he got home, he took a stack of documents out of the safe. The attack on Youngmi that night had deeply affected him. It seemed Youngshin was about to take some kind of action. Meanwhile, Youngmi temporarily stayed at In Kyung's house. When Suja and In Kyung discovered that the person who saved Youngmi was actually Youngshin, their view of him suddenly changed. They thought he didn't seem like such a bad person after all. Just as they were asking why Youngshin had shown up at Youngmi's house, Youngmi began to feel exhausted and didn't want to answer any more questions. Suja and In Kyung quickly helped her to bed. Youngmi didn't want to stay at In Kyung's place for long. She knew her situation was dangerous and didn't want to cause more trouble for her friends. The next day, Youngmi went to work. Jeandi noticed the wounds on her face and immediately realized that Woo Chang had done this to her, but Youngmi said nothing about it. She asked Dongju for a 1-month leave, but not only was her request denied, she was also fired. Her life had fallen into darkness. Before, it was just the pressure of survival. Now, even her life was at risk. At that moment, the only thing that could bring Youngmi comfort was a call from her daughter. Yuna scolded her for not calling, but beneath the complaints was a deep longing for her mother. How could Youngmi not understand? She promised she would visit her daughter soon. After Yuna and Xia moved into Seongwoo's home, their quality of life improved significantly. His current wife was also trying hard to become a good mother to them. Xia had already adapted to the new family, but Yuna, going through adolescence, still remained cold toward the stepmother. One night, Wu Chang went to see Jandi and threw Youngmi's personal file in her face. Jandi immediately realized that her lies had been exposed by Wu Chang and knelt on the floor, begging for forgiveness. Wu Chang grabbed her by the neck and agreed to give her one more chance, only if she could bring Youngmi to him. The next day, Jandi hurried to find In Kyung and asked why Youngmi hadn't come to work. In Kyung didn't want to reveal anything about Youngmi's situation. Seeing that, Jandi began to threaten her, saying, "If you can't reach Youngmi, something might happen to her." The soft-hearted In Kyung had no choice but to compromise once again, and gave Jandi Youngmi's contact information. Jandi told Youngmi that Wu Chang wanted to see her. Youngmi had no other choice, because Wu Chang had already investigated her background thoroughly, even knowing that her 2 children were living with Seongwoo. With so many eyes and ears under Wu Chang's control, there was no way for Youngmi to hide, so she decided to face him bravely. Forced into a corner, Youngmi had no choice but to tell Suja and In Kyung everything. She revealed that her identity had been discovered by the organization's leader, Wu Chang, and now she was being hunted. The reason she hadn't told them earlier was because she didn't want them to worry or be afraid for her. After hearing her confession, Suja and In Kyung were heartbroken. The 3 of them began discussing ways to help Youngmi. That evening, Young Shin secretly met with a prosecutor and handed over evidence of Wu Chang's financial crimes over the past few years. The prosecutor was curious about why he was turning Wu Chang in. Young Shin replied that he simply wanted to live a peaceful life. After leaving the prosecutor's office, Young Shin received a message from Wu Chang, telling him to come to the secret base for a meeting. When Young Shin arrived, he found that all the team members were present, and surprisingly, Youngmi was there too. Wu Chang exposed Youngmi's true identity as a janitor. Tae-gyung, the last to find out, couldn't help but laugh in disbelief. A mere janitor had managed to toy with a team of financial elites in the palm of her hand. Summoning all her courage in a desperate attempt to survive, Youngmi pleaded to join the team, saying that with a janitor's uniform, she could move freely, anywhere. But Wu Chang refused. He couldn't tolerate such deceit. He then ordered Tae-kyung to deal with Youngmi. At the critical moment, Young Shin stepped in to save her, blocking the pursuers so she could escape quickly. Seeing Young Shin stand up for her, Wu Chang realized that he was the one who had rescued Youngmi that night. Wu Chang turned his attention toward dealing with Young Shin. He then told Jandi to bring Youngmi back, otherwise, he would go after her children. Jandi had no choice but to chase after Youngmi. Just then, In Kyung and Suja arrived in their car. As soon as they got out, In Kyung raised her phone, playing a recording of the conversation between Wu Chang and Young Shin. It turned out that after Youngmi was brought to the secret base, her phone had been confiscated, but it already had a recording program installed. Youngmi told Jandi to deliver a message to Wu Chang to let her, her children, and Young Shin go. Otherwise, she would release the recording to the police, the press, and make it public online. Jandi had no choice but to return alone, and told Wu Chang that they had been played by Youngmi. Their entire conversation had been secretly recorded on Youngmi's phone. Wu Chang had no choice but to follow her demand and spare the lives of Youngmi's family and Young Shin. Furious and unable to control himself, Wu Chang lifted a chair and smashed it onto the floor. Hearing his rage through the phone, Youngmi drove away at full speed, escaping from that hell. Thanks to the evidence provided by Young Shin, the next day Wu Chang was summoned to the prosecutor's office for investigation. The files revealed that Wu Chang had come from the underworld, later commercialized his gang, and transformed himself into a businessman, completely laundering his tainted past. After reviewing the evidence, the prosecutor was confident that Wu Chang could be sentenced to 10 years in prison. Unexpectedly, Dongju called to pressure him, ordering the prosecutor to release Wu Chang. Though unwilling, the prosecutor was powerless. Corruption within the system was backed by powerful officials. Meanwhile, Jandi privately met with Youngmi, proposing a collaboration. Young Shin told Jandi that he had already reported Wu Chang, and that the man was now facing judicial investigation. As long as Wu Chang was gone, Young Shin and Jandi would agree to cooperate with Youngmi. Youngmi proposed that the 3 of them start a cleaning company, using it as a cover, while their real real goal would be to steal internal information. She shared the plan with Suja and In Kyung. The three immediately agreed and began gathering funds from different sources to start the company. Suja went to her wealthy sister-in-law and used the fact that she had seen her having an affair to threaten her, successfully borrowing 30 million won. In Kyung withdrew 20 million won from her savings. Yang Mi, on the other hand, asked a creditor for help and went to her brother's house, putting on an act of hardship to force him to return the 50 million won he had kept. Unexpectedly, her nephew, who was a boxer, beat up the creditor and drove him out of the house. Seeing her nephew's excessive zeal, Yang Mi fell into depression again. She had no way to contribute money to the company, but Suja and In Kyung didn't mind. The 50 million won they had together would be enough. Suja quit her job at the securities firm to manage the new company, while In Kyung stayed behind to continue gathering information about the organization. The three women lived in harmony, celebrating the start of their new life, but trouble arose on Young Shin's side. He hadn't expected Wu Chang to bribe the judicial authorities. After only half a day in the interrogation room, Wu Chang was released. As soon as he got out, Wu Chang went straight to settle scores with Young Shin, taking him deep into the mountains and forest. Young Shin knew Wu Chang's true nature well. Tonight might very well be the night he died. He refused to sit still and wait for death. Taking advantage of a moment when Wu Chang wasn't paying attention, he grabbed the steering wheel inside the car. The vehicle swerved violently along the mountain road before crashing through the guardrail and tumbling down the slope. Young Shin regained consciousness first. By then, heavy rain was pouring down. Before the car exploded, he dragged his battered body away from the wreckage. At that same moment, Yang Mi was laughing and playing with her friends at the workshop, also standing under the rain. The sudden downpour made her think of Young Shin. He had saved her again and again, bringing her hope, like a much-needed rain shower in the dried-up desert of her heart. After Wu Chang's death, Young Shin also disappeared, without a trace. Young Mi and her two friends started their cleaning company but chose not to work with Jandi. The three decided to operate independently, leaving In Kyung, who hadn't quit her job yet, to continue gathering stock market information at the securities company. But in the blink of an eye, 6 months passed, and their company had only completed 2 orders. The earnings were far less than what they used to make as janitors at the securities firm. Both Suja and Young Mi sighed in frustration, but In Kyung didn't feel the same. She had been trying to plant a listening device, yet the employees only chatted about trivial, useless things. Feeling helpless, Young Mi announced the end of the workday. As soon as she did, In Kyung instantly perked up, put on some makeup, and went to Do Young's school to meet him. The relationship between the two had progressed greatly over the past 6 months. Though they hadn't confessed their feelings, In Kyung and Do Young understood each other perfectly. They wore matching outfits and walked around the University campus, secretly enjoying the feeling when passers-by mistook them for a couple. After establishing her career, Suja's attitude toward Seong-woo became much firmer. When he complained about being hungry, she told him to cook for himself and stop thinking about ordering her around. After work, Young Mi often visited the red bean porridge lady, bringing her health supplements and, at the same time, asking if there was any news about Young Shin. That day, Young Mi accidentally saw In Kyung and Do Young clinging to each other downstairs. She immediately understood the ambiguous relationship between the two. With the intention of bringing them together, Young Mi deliberately called In Kyung, lying that she would visit her daughter that night and not return, creating an opportunity for the two who were more than friends but not yet lovers to be alone together. As expected, the two went home together, had dinner, and chatted happily. Young Mi had no choice but to go back to the company and stay there for the night. The long and lonely night made her start listening to the secret recording of In Kyung at the securities company earlier that day. As In Kyung had said, most of what the employees talked about was meaningless gossip. After a long while, Young Mi suddenly caught a sentence mentioning stock information. Just as they had hoped, the next day, Young Mi played the recording for Suja and In Kyung to hear, and even found the mattress company the employees mentioned. This company had recently been sued because their mattresses contained carcinogenic substances, causing the stock price to plummet sharply. However, if they won the appeal, the stock price would surge again. To determine the future trend of this stock, Young Mi told In Kyung to steal the evaluation report of the mattress company from the securities firm. But In Kyung was timid and fearful, extremely nervous. Before she could act, she already looked gloomy and hesitant, until she attracted Jandi's attention. Jandi snatched the earphones from In Kyung and spoke directly to Young Mi, exposing their actions. Reluctantly, Young Mi had no choice but to meet Jandi. Jandi came to their small company and proposed a collaboration. Young Mi thought for a moment. At least Jandi's abilities were far superior to In Kyung's, so she told her to steal the evaluation report of the mattress company first. That night, Young Mi suddenly missed Yuna very much. At dawn, she took a taxi to Songwoo's house. From afar, she saw that Yuna's room light was still on. Youngmi immediately texted her daughter, telling her to go to bed. As expected, the light went out right away. Just as Youngmi was about to leave, Yuna walked out of the gate. The mother and daughter ate instant noodles and drank beer together. On the way to take her daughter home, Youngmi asked about her life at Songwoo's house. Yuna honestly said, "The family environment here is very good, and my stepmother treats both of us very well. But no matter how good it is, it can't compare to living with you, Youngmi." Jandi quickly obtained the evaluation report, but she felt that the content inside was not convincing enough, so she was not optimistic about this business deal. However, Youngmi immediately put the documents away carefully. Taking risks was her way of survival. As soon as she returned to the company, she began planning an operation to steal internal information. She first told In Kyung to go to the uniform factory and steal a sample of the mattress company's janitor uniform, then asked Suja to stay up all night sewing it. After getting the uniforms, Suja and Youngmi immediately infiltrated the company, disguising themselves as janitors. Youngmi then went to the legal affairs office and discreetly placed a more concealed bugging device inside a trash bin and a pen holder. Suja met the lawyer and a group of trustees in the company lobby. Among them was Gumsil, whom Suja knew. She noticed the lawyer looked displeased, suggesting that something was not right. At that moment, Youngmi texted Suja, telling her to come to the restroom to listen in together. They heard the legal affairs officer speaking confidently about winning the appeal, and even targeting the company's stock. He had bought shares when the price was low, and was waiting for it to skyrocket after winning the appeal. The results from their eavesdropping, and the information John D obtained were completely different. To determine which side was more reliable, John D suggested that Youngmi should confirm the legal officer's email. That night, when Suja returned home, she mentioned that she had met Gumsil at the mattress company. Gumsil was with a lawyer and seemed rather worried. Youngmi quickly used the camera hidden inside the pen holder to obtain the legal officer's email password, copied the lab's mattress inspection report, and discovered that the mattress quality had no issues and contained no carcinogenic substances. Youngmi immediately reported this to Jandi, showing that the mattress company would likely win the appeal. However, Jandi remained cautious, feeling that the company's stock price was behaving abnormally and needed further observation. Youngmi took her opinion seriously. To earn a large sum, the three of them even borrowed additional money from loan sharks. That day, In Kyung happened to mention Gumsil at the securities company and learned from others that her granddaughter had cancer. During lunch, Youngmi and Suja secretly snuck up to the rooftop of the securities company, telling In Kyung to join them there after eating. Right after lunch, In Kyung was stopped by Jandi, who wanted to know where Youngmi had borrowed money. It turned out Jandi also needed money urgently. Youngmi told her the address of the loan shark. The next day was the date of the appeal verdict. Youngmi and In Kyung stayed home waiting for good news. At that moment, In Kyung remembered Gumsil's story and casually mentioned that her granddaughter also had cancer and that she was involved in a lawsuit related to her granddaughter's condition. Suddenly, Youngmi recalled that Suja had once said she saw Gumsil and a lawyer downstairs at the mattress company. She suddenly realized that Gumsil was one of the plaintiffs in the class action lawsuit. Youngmi immediately went to the front of the mattress company building. A crowd of victims surrounded the main gate, demanding an explanation from the company, but the staff behaved rudely, shouting that the court would deliver a fair verdict, and even pushing some of the victims to the ground. Seeing Gumsil injured, Youngmi quickly bought medicine to treat her wound. Gumsil was a woman with a hard and unfortunate life. In her early years, she had cancer, and after barely recovering, her granddaughter suffered another disaster. Gumsil wanted to use the compensation from winning the lawsuit to pay for her granddaughter's treatment. Youngmi asked for information about the trial, and Gumsil replied that the lawyer they had hired had sent the mattresses to other research institutes for testing. The results they received were different from those obtained by the research institute hired by the company. If their test results were more convincing, they would win the appeal. This reminder prompted Youngmi to check the legal officer's mailbox once again. She discovered that the inspection report she had previously copied was fake, fabricated by the company, in collusion with the Research Institute's professor. In Kyung and Suja both sighed deeply. Once it was confirmed that the mattress company indeed had hidden problems, its stock price would only continue to fall. Even if Youngmi sold the shares as soon as the market opened the next day, she would still suffer a heavy loss. Moreover, there was also the matter of Guillaume Sil. Even if the fake report was accepted in court and Young-mi made a huge profit, Guillaume Sil and the other victims would lose all hope. Young-mi couldn't bear to see their miserable situation and found herself trapped in a moral dilemma. Since the account was managed by Jan D, after they began working together, she would have to go through her to sell the shares. Young-mi went to discuss it with her. However, after hearing about Young-mi's compassion, Jan D strongly opposed it. They had worked so hard to steal the internal information, not to suffer losses. After being rejected by Jan D, Young-mi could only silently wait for the court's verdict. That day, she went with Suja and In Kyung to visit Gumsil. During their conversation, In Kyung and Young-mi mentioned the fake report, unaware that Gumsil overheard everything. Because the court verdict was at stake, Gumsil became extremely emotional and experienced immediately turned to inform the lawyer. The lawyer said that her claim needed evidence to be proven. As long as they could find proof that the mattress company had forged the report, they would surely win the case. Cornered, Gumsil went to see Young-mi and Suja, threatening them to find the evidence, or she would report their theft of company information to the police. Her words infuriated Suja, who angrily told Gumsil to go ahead and call the police, since she had no proof anyway. Gumsil broke down in tears, and only Young-mi stayed behind to comfort her. That night, after much inner struggle, the three of them finally agreed to help Gumsil. The next day, Suja and In Kyung distracted the legal officer and lured him away. Taking advantage of the moment, Young-mi found the original inspection report in his mailbox. After copying it, she was about to leave when someone suddenly entered. It was Young-shin, who had been missing for a long time. Young-shin took the USB drive from Young-mi's bag, saying that he would return it to her after finishing his interview. Young-mi had no choice but to wait calmly. Soon after, she received a call from Young-shin, asking her to meet him at a nearby tea shop. Young-shin had already seen the contents of the USB. It was the mattress company's inspection report. He sighed, saying that Young-mi had already suffered so much under Wu Chang, yet she still refused to stop. Young-mi didn't reveal that she was doing this to help Gyeom-sil, only replying that the matter had nothing to do with Young-shin. Then Young-shin said to her, "If I pass today's interview, I'll become the lawyer for the mattress company's legal department. I can't just stand by and watch my company's secrets being leaked." At that moment, Young-mi finally explained that she did it to help Gyeom-sil, one of the victims. Young-shin then posed a question. "If none of the victims were your friends this time, would you still help them?" Hearing that, Young-mi remained silent. Young-shin understood her answer and sighed that Young-mi's conscience flickered between light and shadow. Since the USB had been taken by Young-shin, Young-mi could no longer help Gyeom-sil and felt extremely uneasy inside. That night, she went to the red bean porridge shop again, but just as she was about to eat, she received a call from John D. The mattress company's lawsuit had taken a major turn. They had agreed to settle with the victims. Young-mi immediately called Gyeom-sil. Gyeom-sil told her that the defense lawyer had suddenly received an important piece of evidence, and that they had Young-mi to thank for it. After thinking for a moment, Young-mi was certain that Young-shin had given her USB to the lawyer. She immediately went to meet him. By then, Young-shin had completely changed, wanting only to live a normal, law-abiding life. He said he handed over the evidence to awaken Young-mi's conscience, and advised her to stop here. But Young-mi didn't. Listen to his advice. "If you haven't experienced another person's suffering, don't tell them to do good," she said. Young-shin couldn't understand. Young-mi only believed that earning as much money as possible was the only way she could continue living with her beloved daughter. Because the mattress company chose to settle, Young-mi had made a major mistake in judging the outcome of the lawsuit. John D., who had borrowed 500 million won from loan sharks for this investment, suffered heavy losses as the stock price plummeted. She blamed everything on Young-mi and demanded that her losses be covered using the group's shared funds. This demand was extremely unreasonable. In Kyung and Suja both felt they couldn't keep being mistreated by John D. and urged Young-mi to fight back against her. However, in recent days, Young-mi's heart had been torn between two opposing forces, one being the voice of conscience that Young-shin awakened, and the other being her desperate desire to buy happiness with money. Already exhausted and frustrated, Young-mi's mood worsened as John D continued to cause trouble. To make matters worse, even though In Kyung and Suja were unhappy, neither of them wanted to confront John D directly. They only wanted Young-mi to handle it smoothly. Young-mi began to lose her temper with In Kyung. Feeling hurt, In Kyung went to confide in Do-young. After being comforted by Do-young, she finally brought beer home, hoping to reconcile with Young-mi. Unexpectedly, Young-mi spoke first, saying that she had decided to move out of In Kyung's house. It wasn't because of any conflict between them, but because Young-mi wanted to give In Kyung and Do-young some space to properly pursue their relationship. Young-mi would temporarily stay at the cleaning company where the three of them worked. That night, Yongmi once again dreamed of the terrifying Wu Chang. The next day, she went to see Jandi to ask about what had happened to Wu Chang afterward. Jandi told her that Wu Chang had died in a car accident. Hearing this, Yongmi felt a sense of relief. At least Wu Chang was dead, and Youngshin was safe. Meanwhile, Taekyung went to see Youngshin and chatted with him about old times. During their conversation, he revealed a lot of information about Yongmi and Jandi, bluntly saying that the two were working together and still leaking confidential information. Youngshin grew alert and asked where Taekyung had heard that. Taekyung replied that Wu Chang had told him. Wu Chang had even asked about Youngshin's situation. Youngshin was deeply shocked. Wu Chang was still alive, but he didn't show any reaction, pretending to remain calm. From Taekyung's tone, it seemed that he still didn't know about the true connection between Youngshin and Wu Chang. That night, Youngshin met with Yongmi again, reminding her not to get too close to Jandi and to stop leaking confidential information. Yongmi explained her helplessness to him. She was already buried in gambling debts and still had to raise 2 children. It was only to keep her family alive that she had stepped onto this path. Now, Yongmi needed to earn even more money to bring her daughter back from Seongwoo's home. After saying that, she stood up and left. Youngshin noticed she had dropped a pack of pills, so he followed her and brought the medicine to the company where she was staying. He touched her forehead and insisted she stay at his place for a few days. Yongmi could have stayed at a hotel, but she refused his kindness, feeling that relying on Youngshin would only make her lose more of her pride. Around this time, Youngshin kept facing obstacles in his job search. One interviewer told him that someone in the government had spread word forbidding any company from hiring him. Youngshin immediately realized that Wu Chang was behind it. He quickly contacted Taekyung to arrange a meeting with Wu Chang. Late at night, Youngshin arrived at the secret base of the squad. Wu Chang had escaped before the car explosion, though he had lost one leg. He said, "The abandoned building beneath us was once meant to be a department store I planned to build after I became successful, but during construction, the government blocked me at every turn. That was when I realized that having money alone isn't enough to achieve great things. Since then, I began pouring money into the police and the prosecutor's office. 3 years ago, the construction ban on this abandoned building was finally lifted. Wu Chang realized that only by possessing both money and power could he achieve his goals. However, even after the ban was lifted, he still chose not to continue the construction. The decayed appearance of the building served as a constant reminder that wealth and power must coexist." After speaking, he pulled down his collar to reveal a burn scar from the car accident. The doctor could have repaired his skin through surgery, but Wu Chang insisted on keeping the scar, as he wanted to remember the betrayal of Youngshin and the humiliation it brought him. Youngshin asked what Wu Chang wanted. Wu Chang threw a stack of Youngmi's photos at him, ordering Youngshin to take part in a fake stock scam worth 300 billion won. Youngshin was appalled by how completely inhuman Wu Chang had become. Insider trading and stock forgery were on entirely different levels, but Wu Chang didn't care. If Youngshin refused, he would kill Youngmi. Meanwhile, Youngmi continued working with Jandi. Using the documents Jandi provided, she secretly recorded industry-related information and bought stocks in anticipation of price surges. The 4 women worked together seamlessly, and money kept pouring into their accounts. By now, even without working, the 3 of them were living an extremely comfortable life. Youngmi finally paid off all her loan shark debts. Tearing up the debt note, she went to a real estate agent to start looking for a new house. She set her eyes on one with a small yard, a perfect place for her and her 2 daughters to live together. She only needed to save a bit more money to reunite with them. The next day, Suja was in a great mood and invited Yongmi and In Kyung to have barbecue together. Unexpectedly, they ran into her sister-in-law and husband, who had brought their son to the same restaurant. They were there to celebrate the boy's big achievement at school and his scholarship. The 4 of them had arranged the dinner without telling Suja. Her expression darkened immediately, and she said that since it was her birthday today, her son should use part of his scholarship money to treat her to dinner as a way to show filial piety. But her son didn't respond. Instead, her sister-in-law tried to smooth things over, saying she would pay for the meal herself. Enraged, Suja slammed the table and shouted, "Why should she pay? My son's the one who won the big award." Suja was furious. She had worked like a slave for her family all her life, yet she couldn't even get this bit of respect. Just then, someone appeared carrying a basket of flowers and placed it in front of Suja. In Kyung and Youngmi followed behind with a cake, happily wishing her a happy birthday. It turned out that when they arrived at the restaurant and sensed the awkward atmosphere, they found out it was Suja's birthday and decided to throw her a small celebration to help her regain her dignity. Today was the happiest birthday birthday Suja had ever experienced. In the past, she had always been tormented by her husband, son, and mother-in-law. Her family had never cared about her. Suja thanked her two friends for helping her feel valued. That evening, Youngmi suddenly asked to meet Young Shin, saying she had something to tell him. However, right after they met, she was nearly hit by a speeding motorcycle. From across the street, Wu Chang lowered his car window and gave Young Shin a cold stare, silently reminding him that he could kill Youngmi at any time. When Youngmi turned her head, Young Shin quickly pulled her back, not wanting her to know Wu Chang was still alive and make her worry. Later, the two went to the red bean porridge shop. Youngmi took out a stack of cash and handed it to Young Shin, saying she would gradually repay the remaining 50 million won she owed him. Young Shin accepted the money and suggested that from now on, each time she made a payment, they should meet there. Youngmi also treated him to a bowl of red bean porridge. After parting with Youngmi, Wu Chang called Young Shin and directly gave him orders, waiting for him to follow instructions. Wu Chang knew that after tonight's threat, Young Shin would no longer dare to refuse him. Under Wu Chang's direction, Young Shin rented an office and began large-scale preparations for the fake stock operation. Wu Chang assigned him to handle all the legal aspects of the scheme. The next day, Youngmi and Suja returned to the cleaning department at the securities company, bringing delicious food to enjoy with their former colleagues. Even Dongju followed the smell and came over. Seeing how well Youngmi and Suja were living after quitting, the harsh words that had almost escaped his lips were swallowed back. He simply ate the piece of fish they offered him. After In Kyung got off work, the three of them went to a bar for the second round. Youngmi said she had already found a house with a small yard, just waiting to earn a little more money to bring her daughters back. Suja also decided to get a divorce and go on a honeymoon alone. That day, Dongju arrived at the entrance of the securities company and called Jeandi, demanding the remaining amount of the usurious loan. Unexpectedly, Jeandi was not far away, turning her back toward Dongju while talking on the phone, irritably saying she would pay on time. After hanging up, she immediately called Youngmi. Standing nearby, Dongju heard Youngmi's name and became curious. He quietly followed Jeandi all the way to Youngmi's company. Youngmi wanted to ask about Wu Chang's situation, whether he was really dead or not. Because of the dangerous situation yesterday and Young Shin's attitude, Youngmi had some doubts. Jeandi thought that if he were still alive, how could she and Youngmi continue trading insider information? Youngmi thought about it and found it reasonable. Perhaps she had been overthinking. In the evening, In Kyung and Do-young went out on a date. She gave Do-young a pair of branded shoes and said she had planned to invite him to a fancy restaurant today. Since she had earned some money, she wanted to treat her boyfriend better. Do-young was very touched, but he didn't care about material things. Even eating at a roadside stall was fine, as long as it was with the right person. Suja started packing her luggage, preparing for her trip abroad. At that moment, her son came home and found a thick stack of pocket money that Suja had left in his room. Finally, he felt guilty and went to the door of Suja's bedroom to apologize, admitting that he had treated his mother badly on his birthday. Suja smiled brightly. After all, her son had never been willing to talk much with her before. Because of his attitude, Suja's mood immediately improved. The next day, she happily went into the kitchen to cook wheat flour soup. Seong-woong's attitude had also changed. In his words, he began to praise Suja's cooking skills. After the meal, the son told his father that he had decided not to go abroad, that he would continue studying at a domestic university and become a prosecutor in the future. That way, he would no longer need to rely on Suja for money. Suja felt very happy, thinking her son had finally grown up. With his ability, his future would surely be bright. Meanwhile, that day Dongju followed Jeandi to the outside of Youngmi's company and pressed his ear to the door to eavesdrop. He happened to hear Youngmi asking Jeandi, "Can the loss from the mattress company's stock be recovered through another stock?" Jeandi replied that the previous loss had almost been made up. After returning home, Dongju began investigating the relationship between Jeandi and Youngmi and looked into the stocks they had mentioned. He discovered that one of them was trending upward while another continued to fall, and he immediately realized that Youngmi and Jeandi were using stocks to make money. He immediately went to find Youngmi, guessing that they were taking advantage of insider trading to make a profit. He remarked that Youngmi, who had once owed 200 million won, could pay off her debt in such a short time because she had gotten a share of the pie. Under his pressure, Youngmi had no choice but to admit it. However, she warned him not to get involved in this field. Although the profits were high, it was extremely dangerous. Unexpectedly, he had already made his own plans. With the chance to make money right in front of him, he wouldn't give it up easily. As soon as he got home, Jeandi called Dongju, saying she wanted to introduce him to a client. Not long after, Jeandi arrived with someone. It turned out that Jeandi had long known Wu Chang was still alive, but had pretended to be ignorant in front of Youngmi. Entering Entering Dongju's office, Tae-kyung got straight to the point and said he wanted to borrow 2 billion won. Dongju knew that the person John D brought was surely connected to stock trading. He also wanted to get involved but couldn't say it outright, so he began bargaining with Tae-kyung and said bluntly, "If you want to borrow money, you must sign a guarantee to give up your organs." Hearing that, Tae-kyung immediately stood up and left. Dongju regretted it right away and wanted to meet Tae-kyung again. At their next meeting, Dongju arranged to meet Tae-kyung and John D in a rundown technician's room. Unexpectedly, he also tricked Young-mi into coming there. As soon as the three met, they immediately sensed something was wrong. Dongju laid his cards on the table. He knew the three were involved in insider trading, and as long as they let him join, he wouldn't make a fuss. After calming down, Tae-kyung decisively pulled both Dongju and Young-mi into the stock operation plan. After all, everyone was after money. Dongju would provide the capital, Young-mi would continue to handle intelligence, and both could receive shares and bonuses after completing the mission. Young-mi told In-kyung and Suja about this, but this time the operation was a bit different. The stock operation involved deliberately buying companies, struggling in business, and using various illegal methods to create the illusion of profit. Once the stock price was pushed high enough, they would sell everything at once to make a huge profit. If successful this time, the money earned would be enough for Young-mi to buy a house and start a new life. Suja and In-kyung trusted Young-mi completely and were also full of confidence in this deal. Suja immediately went to apply for a passport. In-kyung also took Do-young to a high-end restaurant. In-kyung finally understood what she truly wanted. Do-young thought In-kyung was talking about the coffee truck. Ever since her ex-boyfriend scammed her out of the money for the previous one, Do-young had helped her rebuild a new truck himself. But what In-kyung wanted was no longer a coffee truck. She wanted money, because having money and enjoying life was the most comfortable thing. Do-young suddenly felt very sad. He realized that the innocence and kindness that had first attracted him to In-kyung were gradually disappearing. One day, while Tae-kyung and Young-shin were drinking together, Tae-kyung subtly asked if Young-shin knew anything about Young-mi's recent activities. Young-shin was confused, but sensed that something was going on. That night, he went to see Young-mi. The two sat down to drink and chat. Young-shin talked about why he ended up getting involved in insider trading. Years ago, his father had become a sacrifice of a corrupt organization. The old man had worked hard all his life, saving for 10 years to open a red bean porridge shop, but he was forced to move out because of land clearance and received only a small amount of compensation. Losing his livelihood, Young-shin's father tried to find another way to make money, but eventually died in an accident. Young-shin's story moved Young-mi deeply. She felt that there was still a pure place left in his heart. When the red bean porridge lady fell ill, the reason Young-shin was so terrified that he couldn't move was because, on some level, he had superimposed her image with that of his deceased father. The darkening of Young-shin's nature stemmed from the rebellion of simple, honest people, which was why he always felt compassion toward others like them. When the two first shook hands, the calloused, hard-working hand of Young-mi made Young-shin feel that she was one of those people he needed to protect. Meanwhile, ever since Wu Chang reappeared, Yandi's situation had once again become desperate, returning to the same boiling water crisis as before. Wu Chang used John Dee's son to threaten her, which was her fatal weakness. In that state of mind, John Dee suddenly had a pang of conscience and told Young-mi that Wu Chang was still alive. She also mentioned the stock operation plan he was currently working on. Young-shin was also coerced into joining. The reason he agreed was that his weakness had been seized, and that weakness was Young-mi. John Dee advised Young-mi to withdraw from this stock operation plan. The terror of Wu Chang was beyond imagination, and he might also use Young-mi's children to threaten her. After returning, Young-mi asked Young-shin out to meet and confessed that she already knew everything. Young-shin said nothing, only told her to withdraw from the plan. She nodded in agreement. Unexpectedly, at that moment, Young-mi received a photo of Wu Chang and Yun-ah together and screamed in fear. It seemed too late. Wu Chang had already set his sights on Young-mi's child. Wu Chang's specialty was exploiting family ties, using members' children to control and threaten them. Young-mi immediately called Seong-woo to ask about Yun-ah's situation. After confirming that Yun-ah had returned home safely, Young-mi finally breathed a sigh of relief. The next day, while cleaning the restroom during her break, In-kyung took out her phone to buy stocks again, but was caught by Dongju, who scolded her harshly. Unexpectedly, In-kyung, who had always been patient and enduring, took off her gloves and name tag and quit on the spot. Indeed, once there's money in the pocket, the personality becomes stronger. After quitting, In-kyung called Young-mi and said she had bet all her money on this stock. But Young-mi's expression was serious. She didn't want to think about making money for the time being. After thinking for a moment, she called John Dee and asked to meet Wu Chang once. John Dee found it unbelievable who would willingly walk into the tiger's den, but she was helpless and had to arrange it for Young-mi. Young-mi went to the abandoned building again and met Wu Chang. She sternly warned Wu Chang not to touch her child under any circumstances, or else she would expose all of his crimes to the world. To protect her child and ensure her own safety, she agreed to be used by Wu Chang and help him with the fake stock operation. Wu Chang agreed. After all, his goal wasn't to kill anyone but to manipulate the people he had under control. He gave several orders, telling Yang Mi to hand over her old phone. From now on, she could only use the private phone he provided for communication and was forbidden to contact anyone, especially Youngshin. Then he assigned her first task. Once the stock price rose to a certain level, she must sell everything, because after that, it would completely collapse. Soon, the fake company planned by Taekyung and Wu Chang loudly announced its contract signing and stock listing. Everyone watched the stock price climbing non-stop, feeling thrilled that they were about to make another fortune. While In Kyung was eating instant noodles and staring at the stock chart, Do Young called her. That night, he was drunk and said that after falling in love with In Kyung, he had made her dream his own and secretly built a coffee truck for her. Unexpectedly, as soon as he mentioned the coffee truck, In Kyung said that dream was already in the past. Now she wanted to become a landlord, living comfortably at home and collecting rent every month. In Kyung's answer left Do Young deeply disappointed. She was no longer the girl she used to be, the one with dreams in her heart and light in her eyes. Do Young realized that he and In Kyung no longer shared any common ground, and he staggered to his feet, preparing to go home. In Kyung, on the other hand, was puzzled and couldn't understand why he seemed so sad. As soon as she returned home, she received a strange phone call. It was Youngmi, calling from a public bathhouse using a payphone. She warned In Kyung to sell all her stocks the next day because something was about to happen. After that, Youngmi called Dongju, giving him the same warning. When In Kyung passed this message to Suja, her son happened to overhear it. Shocked, he realized that his mother had suddenly gotten involved in stock trading. He sternly questioned her about it. In the end, Suja confessed to her son that she had obtained insider information and was using it to make money from stock trading. Her face was full of guilt, because she remembered how her son had once said he wanted to become a prosecutor. Surely, he would despise what she had done. But, instead, her son showed a crazed expression, accusing her of being too cautious to ever change the family's fate. He said that if she shared this channel with his wealthy aunt's family so they could invest more, they could make even more money instantly. Anxiously, he demanded to know where she had gotten the information. Hearing those words, Suja smiled bitterly through tears. She was disappointed in her son, and even more disappointed in herself. Overcome with anguish, Suja slapped herself repeatedly and fell to her knees, crying soundlessly. That night, she carried her luggage to the airport, her eyes filled with loneliness. Following Youngmi's advice, In Kyung sold all her stocks on time and made another large profit. Just as she was feeling happy, Do Young came to see her. He had originally planned to confess his feelings to In Kyung when giving her the coffee truck, but before he could even give it, the coffee truck had already lost its meaning. Because In Kyung had changed. In Kyung looked sorrowful, not realizing that she herself had changed. Before leaving, Do Young handed her the coffee truck's key and told her that if she had time, she could go to the parking lot and take another look at her once cherished dream. As for him, he needed more time to process and accept the reality that In Kyung was no longer the same. After they parted, In Kyung went to the parking lot. A brand new coffee truck stood before her eyes. Her eyes immediately turned red. She suddenly remembered the disappointment on Do Young's face when she said she no longer wanted the coffee truck. Without realizing it, she had deeply hurt him. In Kyung collapsed to the ground and cried loudly. Suja sat in the airport for a long time until she fell asleep and was awakened by the staff. Since she refused to say anything, they had to check the recent contacts on her phone. They called In Kyung and Youngmi, who immediately rushed over and brought Suja back to In Kyung's house. After Suja regained her senses, she told Youngmi and In Kyung that the son she had always been proud of had been blinded by money and wanted to join insider trading. She had wanted to slap him awake and tell him that what he was doing was wrong, but when she thought about how she herself had also been relying on such schemes to make money, she realized she had no right to lecture him. Therefore, Suja decided that from now on she would no longer see Youngmi or In Kyung. She didn't want to remember this experience, nor did she want to recall the crazed, money-driven look on her son's face. After returning home, Suja officially cut ties with her husband and son, preparing to use the money she had earned to enjoy her own life, never again living for those who had betrayed her. She moved into a beautiful new home, bought a world map, and hung it where it was easily visible. Finding Hawaii, the place she had always dreamed of visiting, her face was filled with longing for travel. That day, Youngmi's anonymous phone rang. Wu Chang was about to assign another task. This time, he had prepared false information, claiming that their fake company was collaborating with a major major overseas corporation. This news would attract tens of billions in new stock investments. Wu Chang instructed Yongmi to leak the information right before the market closed, so they could make one final cut from small investors. Yongmi immediately went to a financial newspaper office, disguised herself as a janitor, and placed the stack of documents on an editor's desk to be noticed. As expected, when the editor discovered the documents, he became intrigued and began reviewing them. Wu Chang knew about Yongmi's plan and was simply waiting for the financial paper to publish the fake news that would drive the stock price up. To prevent Yang Xin from interfering again, Wu Chang told Tae-kyung to transfer some money into Yang Xin's account, so it would appear he was also part of the deal. However, Tae-kyung went straight to find Yang Xin and told him everything Wu Chang had said. It turned out that Tae-kyung had already planned to flee. He had sent his entire family abroad and intended to leave after this operation. Tae-kyung confessed that Yongmi, for some reason, had been dragged into this scam and was helping Wu Chang spread false information. He handed Yang Xin all the evidence he had collected over time about his and Wu Chang's insider trading activities, along with the anonymous phone used to contact Wu Chang, hoping Yang Xin could clean up the mess. Because the next day, Tae-kyung would be leaving Korea and never coming back. The next day, the news indeed appeared online. Yongmi demanded her phone back from Wu Chang and asked him to honor their agreement, not to harm her or her daughter anymore. Seeing how swiftly and decisively she handled things, Wu Chang still felt it was a pity to let her go. At the same time, he discovered that Tae-kyung had gone missing and couldn't be found anywhere. After breaking free from Wu Chang, Yongmi immediately rented a house she liked, planning to bring her daughters home the following month. That day, she stopped by the convenience store where she had once worked part-time. She heard that one of the part-time employees there had committed suicide after losing everything in a failed stock investment. Yongmi knew that girl. She was very much like her former self, tormented by poverty. Back then, Yongmi had wanted to help her, so she had encouraged her to invest in stocks. Unexpectedly, after tasting the sweetness of profit, the girl couldn't stop and eventually fell into this latest trap. Yongmi's heart sank to the bottom, filled with regret for having once sparked the flame of greed in an innocent person. That day, Yang Xin met Yongmi and said that she was now making a lot of money and had everything she ever wanted. But her success was built on the tragedies of countless small investors. After that, Yongmi broke down in tears. Meanwhile, Wu Chang's men went to Tae-kyung's trading office, but it had long been abandoned. Enraged and unable to contain himself, Wu Chang ordered his men to find Yang Xin immediately. That night, as Yang Xin was walking Yongmi home, he suddenly pulled her into his arms. Leaning close to her ear, he begged for her help and handed her a folder he was holding. Inside were 2 sets of documents. Yang Xin told her to deliver one set to a member of parliament and the other to a prosecutor. He had already written down the locations and contact methods. All Yongmi needed to do was tell the prosecutor her name, and he would help her. Yongmi had only one question. What exactly are these documents? Yang Xin replied, they can help ease the guilt in your heart. Hearing that, Yongmi agreed. She would do everything she could to help Yang Xin. As soon as she got home, Yongmi started looking for allies. She called Dongju and asked him for a favor. Wu Chang's men quickly captured photos of Yang Xin and Yongmi meeting. The next day, Wu Chang discovered that Yang Xin had driven a truck to the bank, seemingly intending to withdraw all the money from his account. Not long after Yang Xin left the bank, Wu Chang immediately ordered his driver to follow the truck. Meanwhile, Yongmi also went out carrying the bag of documents. After getting into a taxi, she realized a car was following her. She didn't need to think twice. It was definitely Wu Chang's men. Yongmi hurriedly called her second teammate, In Kyung. By then, In Kyung had arrived at the subway station. Following the instructions in the message Yongmi sent her, In Kyung retrieved one set of documents from a locker and successfully delivered it to the prosecutor. Yongmi then rushed to the government building where the member of parliament worked and quickly slipped into the main hall. Wu Chang's men followed closely behind, only catching a glimpse of a janitor entering the elevator. The pursuers checked the floor directory and headed toward the lawmaker's office floor, but it was already too late. Yongmi had already gone inside with the documents. The file contained evidence that Tae-kyung and Wu Chang had established a shell company and intentionally manipulated stock prices to profit from small investors. It included audio recordings as well as content suggesting Yongmi's possible involvement. The lawmaker knew that once this evidence was exposed, it would become a major scandal. Why are you willing to sacrifice yourself to reveal this? Yongmi replied, because I also have something I want to protect. Finally, the lawmaker asked, who are you? Yongmi answered with dignity, as you can see, I'm just a janitor. By the time Yongmi Mi left the government building, the pursuers still hadn't found her, and had no choice but to call Wu Chang to report that they had lost track of her. Wu Chang immediately activated Plan B. After school, as Yuna stepped out of the school gate, Dongju approached her, greeting her, and claiming that he had been sent by Yongmi to pick her up. Without any suspicion, Yuna got straight into Dongju's car. Meanwhile, Youngshin drove a truck, leading Wu Chang and his gang of thugs to an abandoned warehouse. Everyone got out of their vehicles one by one and went to open the back of the truck. Inside were 2 bags full of cash, the money Wu Chang had previously transferred to Youngshin. At that moment, Youngshin stepped out from the driver's seat, as if waiting for Wu Chang's arrival. He began to execute his plan to sow discord, telling the thugs to take the 2 bags of cash from the truck so they could break free from Wu Chang's control and no longer do his dirty work. After all, Wu Chang was about to be sent to prison by him anyway. The gang members hesitated for a moment, then one by one betrayed Wu Chang, grabbed the cash, and quickly fled. Unexpectedly, as soon as they ran downstairs, they were surrounded and arrested by prosecutors and investigators. None of them managed to escape. Inside the warehouse, the limping Wu Chang was shoved to the ground by the thugs. He struggled to stand up. Youngshin told him that John D had betrayed him and handed over the evidence of their illegal trading. Realizing that everyone in his organization had turned against him, Wu Chang immediately pulled out his phone to call his political backer. But Youngshin had already prepared for this. He had secretly taken photos of Wu Chang's private dealings with that politician. Now, that politician himself was under investigation for involvement in stock manipulation and could barely protect himself, let alone help Wu Chang. At that moment, Wu Chang finally lost all control and, in a fit of rage, pulled a small knife from his pocket and lunged at Youngshin. However, after only a few moves, he was knocked to the ground, with Youngshin stepping on his hand that held the knife. Shortly after, the prosecutor's team arrived and arrested Wu Chang. Yet even then, Wu Chang refused to calm down. He shouted at Youngshin that he still had a backup plan and told him to check on Youngmi's situation. Feeling a deep sense of unease, Youngshin quickly tried to call her. At that time, Youngmi was standing outside her home. After hearing from Dongju that Yuna had been safely brought home, she finally breathed a sigh of relief. Just as she was about to answer Youngshin's call, Wu Chang's men struck her from behind, knocking her unconscious and dragging her into a car. Dongju, who had just driven away, saw in his rearview mirror that Youngmi had been kidnapped. He immediately turned the car around and sped after them. Unable to reach her by phone, Youngshin borrowed a car from the prosecutor and rushed off to find Youngmi. Dongju, closely, followed Wu Chang's men to an old, dark warehouse. He found the vehicle that had kidnapped Youngmi, but it was empty. He shouted her name loudly, and finally heard her weak voice calling back from a nearby room. Dongju immediately grabbed a fire hose and broke the door lock. Just as he was about to rescue her, one of Wu Chang's men appeared and attacked him. The thug wielded a small knife and stabbed Dongju, injuring him so badly that he fell to the ground, unable to resist. Just as the thug was about to strike Youngmi, Youngshin arrived in time. He fought fiercely with Wu Chang's henchmen and eventually subdued him. Youngmi rushed over to check on Dongju's condition and told Youngshin to call an ambulance. Meanwhile, the news about the fake stock company had been exposed by the lawmaker. Everyone involved in the case, from Wu Chang's political backers to Tae-kyung, who had fled abroad, was now listed as a suspect. Living in her new house, Suja saw the news and began to worry about Youngmi. After all, she had also been involved in this large-scale financial fraud. In the interrogation room, the prosecutor told Youngshin, "Since you weren't the mastermind and voluntarily provided crucial evidence, you will receive a lighter sentence according to the law." But the prosecutor couldn't help asking, "Someone as capable and promising as you, why did you choose the path of insider trading?" Youngshin replied with emotion, "Because of one wrong decision, I was trapped in a desert of sin, wandering endlessly, with no way out. Unable to see the future, I couldn't move forward nor turn back. Until one day, I met someone who was also lost in life. I took her hand, and together, we walked side by side, and finally found a way out of the desert." The prosecutor didn't quite understand what he meant, but still smiled. After all, Youngshin and his friends were lucky enough to have turned back before it was too late. Outside the prosecutor's office, Youngmi looked at a photo of her daughters and firmly decided to turn herself in. Time passed. 1 year later, Suja, dressed in fashionable clothes, dragged her suitcase wearily after returning from a long trip abroad. The world map hanging in her home was now covered with markings. Every one of those places was somewhere she had visited. At that that moment, the doorbell rang. Her son had come to see her. Seeing that his mother was now living for herself, he felt overjoyed and sincerely wished her happiness, even hoping she could forgive him. Those words brought silent tears to Suja's eyes. The time she had spent caring for her son had also been precious to her. After they reconciled, her son took out a brand new suitcase as a gift for her and proudly told her that he had passed the law graduate exam, taking another step toward becoming a prosecutor. Suja was filled with joy. This kind of life was the happiness she had truly longed for. In Kyung, meanwhile, started her own coffee truck business, and her relationship with Do Young returned to the way it once was. That day, Do Young took the ring from his pinky finger and placed it on In Kyung's hand to propose to her. Overjoyed, In Kyung responded to his proposal with a kiss. The two kissed passionately amid the cheers and blessings of their customers. The lives of everyone else were also gradually improving. John D finally found the courage to meet her son and reclaim him. Yoon Ah and Shi Ah no longer rejected Seongwoo's family. The four of them often went out together, their bond growing stronger each day. Youngmi rented a house with a small yard, brought her daughters home, and opened her own flower shop. Everything was going well. The only thing missing was news from Young Shin. One day, Youngmi went to the cinema to watch the movie Young Shin had once mentioned. Coincidentally, that same day, Young Shin had also come to the same place. After the movie ended, he folded his ticket into a paper crane and placed it beneath the movie poster. When he turned around, he unexpectedly saw Youngmi. The scene quietly froze on the silhouettes of the two of them. There was no dramatic reunion. They simply looked at each other and smiled. A few days later, the three sisters decided to meet up. They went to the riverside in the countryside, where they had once gone together. In Kyung happily handed out her wedding invitations. She would be marrying Do Young next week. After laughing and chatting, the three looked off into the distance, grateful that even after falling to the bottom, they never gave up. The film ends. Goodbye, and see you next time.